Hey guys, how are we doing? Welcome to Talking Boxing. It is Monday, March 24th, 2025, and what a weekend of boxing it was. The big George Kambosos Jake Wiley fight. We saw Sebastian Fundora, defend his world title against Shordale Booker. Now, what the hell was that? We had the little internet spat between Jim Kambosos and George against Michael Katsidis. Not sure I'm a fan of that one, but I'm sure a lot of people want to hear about that. Got lots of comments ready to go in there. Everyone's, as always, welcome. Great to see or hear or see or whatever it is, everyone out there at the moment. If you haven't been on the show before, make sure you put your questions, comments, whatever it might be, in the chat, and we'll get onto it. Now, before we get going tonight, we've got a special guest. We're going to have a very quick chat with promoter Will Tomlinson. He's got a big show this week, and we're going to get him on to have a quick chat. We might try and do this a little bit more often as we go with some of the promoters. Just a quick chat. We'll bring him in now. And the CEO, is that the title there, mate, of Wild Fighter, Will Tomlinson. How are you, mate?
How are you, mate? Good. Thanks for having me on again.
No worries. So, just firstly, before we get into the show this weekend, what did you make of the Kambosos fight? And then, well, probably not so much the internet spat with Jim and George. Everyone that's probably left to them to decide. But what did you make of the show and the fights and the whole card as a total?
I had a really busy weekend, especially on Saturday night, and I actually didn't get around to watching it live. I've seen some of the replays. Yeah, I knew that it would be a semi-competitive fight. Jake Wiley was in camp prepping for his fight against Joel Taylor, and he was coming in ready. And yeah, it was a semi-competitive matchup. George looked pretty sharp in the highlights for the first 4 rounds, apparently, and then there was a head clash and kind of went south from there. But yeah, it was a good result.
As a promoter, I'm sure you can feel my pain here. When the news got announced on the Sunday night that, well, I think it might have been Monday night last week during the show that Duard, is that his name? Duard Jordan was out. As a promoter,
Yeah,
I'm sure
Jordan,
I'm sure you, like me, felt the feelings what would have been going through promoters' minds at that stage.
yeah. So what was the deal? He was sick or
Well,
injured
apparently he
or
was sick. The rumours are, though, and there's always, as you know better than anyone, there's always rumours and
what room is he
conspiracy
here in?
theories. Well, apparently the crowd numbers or the ticket sales were so low that they pulled Jordan and put Jake Wiley in to try and regenerate the show, but also save a bit of money. So, I mean, who knows? Apparently there's only like 1,100 tickets sold, and Eddie Hearn got wind of it and panicked and said, like, that's it, we need to do something. They gave away a lot of tickets, and
But how
who
much
knows?
money could he possibly save by doing that? Like, I couldn't
Exactly.
imagine Dow Jordan would be getting a huge pay packet.
No, and you're right. I mean, even if it was $100,000 less, $100,000 when you've got 1,100 people in the crowd is not going to make a lot of difference.
Yeah,
And Eddie can, I'm sure, can afford it anyway. But like as
very
always,
good
there's
weather
conspiracy
storm.
theories, and but anyway, I'll take him for his word anyway. But that was last Monday night, and apparently he was sick. He was pulled out. Jake Wiley got the call up. Liam Wilson apparently offered to jump in, but I mean he'd been in the ring I think 2 weeks before, so it was never going to happen. But just from an elite fighter's point of view, though, mate, like what would George's mindset have been on Saturday night? I mean, everyone talks about he should have wiped the floor with Wiley being a late replacement, but how hard would it have been to get up for someone like Jake Wiley on 5 days' notice?
He probably would have felt a lot of excess pressure being in there with a national level Aussie fighter, and George meant he's been competing at that really high level, the elite level. He would have felt almost obliged to get rid of him and make it an easy night for himself, but didn't turn out to be the case. He did, so he did have those few. He was looked good in those few early rounds. So, and he seemed pretty happy with himself with how he performed after the fight and all these post-fight speeches that I seen. So,
Yeah, I thought he
yeah,
fought really well, and you're again another one in the best position to answer this question because you've been in there, and like Kambosos, you got a habit of or had a habit of getting busted up a little bit. just put us in the putting us in the mindset of no, the first four or five rounds, you're cruising, you're winning every round comfortably, and then you get the headbutt, then you get cut. You got to fight 3 months away. What's going through his head? Because he was criticised for going too negative, but I'm assuming when in that situation, there's a bit of self-preservation mode.
I'm not sure if there's really self-preserve. There wouldn't be. I wouldn't expect him to be thinking, "Oh, I've got to protect my eye or get through this fight for the sake of the next fight that's happening against Richardson Hitchens." I think he just would have been preservation mode to make sure he actually won the fight.
Mm.
That would have been the first thing that came into mind, especially if he got hurt from the head clash. Again, I didn't see it, but if it was a brutal head clash, like sometimes they can be as taxing on you, the same as a punch.
Mm.
You can get concussed from a big head clash, and that could have and obviously did like impact the way he was fighting. Um, so yeah, it's he got through it. He got the job done, got the win, and now he'll get another shot at the world title.
Speaking
And
of that fight
it'll
with
be interesting
Richardson.
to see how he goes there.
Yeah, well, that was my next question with Richardson Hitchens. Look, my comments or opinions have sort of been that George, like probably a lot of fighters, looks good against a certain type of fighter and struggles against others. He has obviously struggled with hand and foot speed with Haney and Lomachenko. Hitchens, not even though he's not as good as those two, still going to pose a little bit of a problem for George to be able to get off against someone as quick as Hitchens.
Yeah, I think George is a front foot style fighter. He likes people to be a still target in front of him. Same with me. That's how I used to like it. And struggled with the boxer movers, which you typically come up against at that high level. They've got the skill and ability to adapt, and they've got multiple game plans, and they can revert to one if one's not working. So yeah, I think it's gonna be another tough night for George. But hey, Teofimo Lopez was my favorite fighter at the time when George beat him. So he does have the ability to produce those freakish performances and get the job done on the night. So it all comes down to how both boys are prepared and how their lead ups are and how their bodies and minds are going into the fight and whether they're on or they're off. Because that's the thing in boxing. On one night you can have a great performance and pull out a once in a lifetime performance, and then against the same bloke under the same circumstances, for whatever reason, you can just miss the mark and get beat. So time will tell.
Yeah, what do you make? I mean, of George, because he does polarise a lot of people. Now, I for one, I'm a fan of George. I know he can be outspoken. I know he can be brash and cocky and everything else. But so much respect. You just said yourself, Teofimo Lopez was your favourite fighter when George beat him. But what do you make of the criticism that he gets? Is a lot of people saying he's a one-hit wonder and stuff. I'm assuming you'd have all the respect in the world for him. But what's your take of George?
My take on George is like you can't knock him for what he's done and what he's trying to continue to do. He flew under the radar for the majority of his career prior to the fight against Lopez. No one gave him a chance in hell against Lopez. Me in particular, I thought Lopez would do it easy, but George just pulled out this unbelievable, freakish, once in a lifetime performance, and you know the way the cookie crumbled, the stars aligned, it just everything fell into place, and he was able to land that a massive overhand right in the second or third round, whatever it was, and that fight, no doubt, would have severely concussed Teofimo from his brutal weight. Yeah, like he wouldn't have been far from 100% because it would. I think he really struggled to make the weight that fight from what I remember. And he no doubt would have been concussed from that big punch and just wasn't able to recover. George jumped on him and just boxed a beautiful fight and got the victory of a lifetime. And then he's obviously had the other fights post that against Haney, Lomachenko, and featured in some huge moments in Australian boxing, and it's got a lot of attention. And you can't knock him, you can't hate him, you can't bag him for reaping the rewards of what he's created for himself. Like no one else has done the work for him. He's had to put himself out there and be ready for the opportunities and capitalize on those opportunities when they've been given to him.
Mm.
And whether or not people say he's a one-hit wonder was all the work that he did in the lead up to and on the night against Lomachenko, against Tiafimo, that has prolonged those opportunities that have, because what he did was so massive,
Mm.
and that it's earned him credits for many fights to come to get these opportunities. So I wish I had them. Like
Well, I think most of the you know the disparaging sort of remarks and comments comes from those who maybe haven't been in the ring themselves. I don't think I've ever heard a fighter that talked down George Kambosos, because I just can't see how you could have a crack at someone and hang shit on someone that's won the undisputed lightweight title and brought Devin Haney and Lomachenko to Australia and continually wanted to fight the best. I don't know how you could fault someone like that, but as always, mate, as you know, you can't keep everyone happy, and there's always going to be someone out there that's going to
you cannot
lay the
keep
boots in.
everyone happy.
Yeah,
Cannot keep everyone happy, unfortunately.
exactly. Well, mate, on to your show.
Especially as a
Sorry.
promoter.
Yeah. Well, mate, we make $1 million every show, so
Oh yeah.
ripping all the fighters off and all the rest of it, and it's all about us. But anyway, no, I'm only joking. All right, speaking of promotions, your show's this weekend, so I've got this show in front of me. So it's this Friday night, 28th of March. So I'm Max Reeves and Riley Candy. I'm assuming that's the main event. So tell us
That
a
is
little
the
about
main event.
who's on the card.
This Friday night, Wild Fight of the Three Kings, headlined by the local superstar Max Reeves. He's fighting in his his first attempt to win the Australian title for the second time. So he's a former Aussie super middleweight champ, relinquished it to fight for the the IBO light heavyweight title against Tongo, who he lost via a very controversial stoppage, in my opinion. So now we're back down to super middleweight where he belongs, and he's in against Riley Candy, a young, tough, undefeated
5-0.
Queenslander. Yeah, 5-0. Been training the house down. He's had 8 weeks to prep for the fight, so he's going to be coming ready. So I'm expecting him to bring a really good fight and a good test for Max to see where he's at, see if he does belong at the top of the super middleweight division, and in my opinion, he does. And we will find out this Friday night.
Right, and on the undercard, looks like so we've got another 10-rounder, Viliami Liava and Xavier Fletcher for the Australian middleweight title as well. So Liava is 6-2, Fletcher 4-0.
Yeah, so another good fight. Viliami Liava, very, very talented Islander kid from New Zealand. Yeah, super, super skillful, and when he's on, he's really on. And again, like Max, he's at a full camp to prep for this, and he's been giving 110% in the gym from all reports. And Xavier Fletcher is also a very promising prospect on the rise, coming down from Queensland. He's 4-0, undefeated, really tall, really slick, bit of a slick style. So it's going to be an interesting fight, like a tactically interesting fight. Yeah.
You spat out what's his name? Viliami Liava's name, okay? Though I can't get any of these guys' name out without getting tongue
I've
twisted.
I've said it a few times now. So,
who else have we got? So Dominic Molinaro, 2-0 against. Well, what is it? Does he qualify as a journeyman now? Lockie Higgins, 8-2, or is it a little bit early to call him that?
I think he's still like 22 years old, Lockie Higgins.
Is he? Yeah, he's only young, isn't he? Yeah.
I think he might be 24.
Yeah.
But he seems like he's been around forever. He fought on my first promotion in 2019, and he'd already had a few fights at that point. So he's been around for a while. Very experienced, tough as nails.
Can fight. Yep.
Can fight. He's pulled out some really big performances. Knocked out Benassain. It was Benassain he knocked out, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yep.
But Dom Molinaro, I'm very, very excited to be working with Dom. I've been hounding him for the last couple of years about turning pro, and he's finally crumbled.
So was he 2-0?
He's 2-0 now. He had his debut on my card. Then he had another fight recently on a show. So this will be his third pro fight, and he's in against Bubba, which will give him a really good test and a be a good indicator to see where he's at. And
And you need
yeah,
fighters like Lockie Higgins, don't you? Because he's just fought everybody. He just doesn't care. He just fronts up, give him a paycheck,
yeah,
and he'll fight anybody. Looking at, he's had 18 fights, his 50-50 record. But this is what,
yeah,
as a promoter, you know better than anyone. These are the type of fighters you need who will just step up and fight anyone, whether they're
yeah.
an up and
But
comer or
also
whatever.
not just step up and just take the fight for the sake of the fight and
But
look
but give a
payday.
good fight. Yep,
They
come to win.
come in, they
Mm.
try and win. Like he'll be in there trying to knock out Dom Molinaro, and Dom's gonna have to be on his A game to outbox him and use his experience in the amateurs. And although it's only his second pro fight, he's got a wealth of experience in the amateurs. He was, he fought Callum Peters a lot. He was always kind of at a rival weight with him. But yeah, I think Dom's definitely one to keep an eye on, not only this Friday night but moving forward.
And this is a fight I'm really looking forward to, or the debut of this guy, Adrian Paoletti. He's making his debut against Louis Masters, which is a pretty tough debut. I mean, Louis Masters has only got a 3-8 record, but look at the guys he's fought. He's fought Troy Pilcher, Jackson Murray, David Nyika, Liam Taliva. He's fought as well, so he's always backed himself against the all the big guy. Always gives away height
Yeah,
and reach and everything and weight.
and,
And Adrian
and a
Paoletti, a
lot of
really good amateur star. Mm.
and a lot of those guys, David Naika, Jackson Murray, he had him gone a
Mm.
couple of times in those
Yeah.
fights. So I think he even might have dropped Jackson Murray maybe,
I
or
think he
really
did.
hurt
Yep.
him.
Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, he can bang. He's a massive puncher. He fights literally like Mike Tyson. That's
Mm.
his.
You can tell he's his
Yeah,
role model. But Adrian Paoletti, very, very good amateur. Just unlucky. They always run into Jason Waitley, didn't he, in the amateurs, and never quite got to the big tournaments. But he used to be under Brian Butler. He can definitely fight. That's for sure.
yeah, yeah. So from all reports, Adrian Paoletti is, from a lot of people's opinion, is blue chip
Mm.
prospect as they
Yep.
come, in terms of amateurs turning pro, and really excited to be working with him. I've actually signed him up for a few
Good
fights,
stuff.
so
And a really
I'm
nice
going to
guy too.
getting right behind him and trying to build him into some bigger and better fights in the future, providing he can get through the big punching Louis Masters this
Mm.
Friday night.
Should be a ripper. Now, there are only 4 fights on BoxRec. Any others on the card?
There's five pro fights. So Bruno Tarimo is actually on the card as well.
Okay. Yep. Yep.
He's
Good
got
fighter too.
a guy coming in from the Philippines. That because obviously no one wants to fight Bruno Tarimo
Mm.
here in Australia. He's a very good fighter, and he's hopefully on the way back to some world world class fights.
He's caused some
World
upsets
class.
here, hasn't he?
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, it's going to be a really good show. The cards come together really well. Got some corporate fights underneath that, but we're expecting another massive turnout down in Sale.
Gonna
All
say
the local.
we didn't actually mention that, did we? It's at the Gippsland Regional Sports Complex in Sale.
Yeah, so the GRSC down in Sale. This is like my fourth, fifth show down there now. Max Reeves being the local boy. He draws a massive crowd. The whole town gets behind him. So yeah, it's going to be a really fun night. Tickets are still available if anybody listening is in
How do
the
they get
area.
tickets?
So let's jump onto the Wildfighter website. Also, the live stream will be available via the Wildfighter website. The link will be in the on that site that they can click through and watch it on livecombatsports.com.
They do great things,
So,
live combat sports.
yeah, the show will start at 6:30 p.m. And it's gonna be a really good night. Like it's gonna be some good fights, even matchups, and should be a good night of action.
Good stuff, mate. Well, really appreciate you coming on. We might do this a little bit more often when you have the shows. We might get some other promoters on just to promote it up, because sometimes, shows like this don't necessarily get the coverage that they deserve. But how many people are you expecting down there in Sale?
We should crack 1,000, I
Yeah,
reckon.
nice.
Go
Country
close.
shows are
So
always the best.
yeah, there's not much else to do on in Sale on a Friday night. So
Mm.
and they all love a beer and they love a punch on. So and I provide both. So
That's great, mate.
um,
No, we'll really appreciate you coming on, mate. Best of luck. And don't forget, guys, if you're down that way, Sale, Wildfighter website for tickets, and make sure you support the grassroots boxing. And Will, mate, you're doing a fantastic job, and best of luck for Friday night.
all right, thanks, Lyndon. We'll see you soon, mate.
No worries, mate.
Catch ya.
All All right. Okay. Well, that was Will Tomlinson, promoter, Wildfighter. And make sure you get on the website and support the local show down there. All right. Well, let's get into it, guys. We'll get into there's a few comments in the chat there. I can see Sammy T. I can see old mate Big J. I see Double G. Eminem, all over the place with these comments. So what we're going to do is start with, I saw a super chat come through, so I'll always get you to the top of the list. Dennis Green, thanks very much, Dennis, $5. Really appreciate it, mate. What do you got there? G'day all, just finished watching you chatting with D-Style. Great discussion, and kudos to you for having the stamina to back up again. Oh, look, I love it, Dennis, and when it comes to talking about boxing, I'll talk all day, but D-Style's a little bit like me. I think he actually does a little bit more than what I do as far as his content goes. He gets on. I mean, I do the 20-minute walking boxing of a morning, and then this once a week. But D-Style loves to get on, and he talks about boxing and politics, you name it. He talks about it, and you can never get tired of talking about something you love, Dennis. And I'm assuming the fact that people like you tune in every week, you're like me, you love talking to other fight fans about boxing, but. Yeah, we went for about an hour and a half or 2 hours this morning, D-Style and I. So if you haven't seen that, make sure you get on D-Style's channel. It was great fun. We just talked a little bit about, a little bit of an Australian perspective on the boxing scene at the moment, obviously with what happened on Saturday night and where George goes. And we chatted about George Foreman as well, all sorts of different things. So it's always great to jump on. We might have to get him on here one night. The problem is it's about probably 3 a.m. or something over there at the moment, so it might be a bit hard. So thanks very much, Dennis. Much appreciated, mate. All right. So in no particular order, let's get into it. We've got Double G. How are you, mate? Hope you had a great weekend. Great round table with you and D-Style. Thanks very much, Double G. It was good to have a few Aussies in the chat. Because I think at one stage we were talking about Aussie barbecues and what beer we drink and all that sort of stuff, and all these misconceptions that Americans have about Aussies. So it was good to actually clarify a few and be backed up by a few of the Aussies in the chat. So if you're in the chat next time, guys, make sure you heard like this, put a comment in there, and D-Style and I were just there to chew the fat and talk about whatever. So it'd be good to have all you guys and girls along. So normally Monday mornings. I know that's hard for most people, but if not, check it out on the replay later on, or the online, whatever it is. Still with Double G. Did you see Jesus Ramos over the weekend? He sure hits hard. I know he took out Joey Spencer in 7. Yep, a couple of years ago. It looks like Spencer can take a punch though, so Tim fight interesting. Yeah, I only saw highlights of that fight. Jesus, sorry, I'm going to call you Jesus then. Double G. I had to work pretty much all over the weekend with the pub and everything, so I sort of missed a lot yesterday. I did watch the main event. Wasn't overly impressed with Sebastian Fundora, and I don't know where the hell they got this Chordale Booker from. I really don't. So, but I did see the highlights of Jesus Ramos, mate. He's a very, very good fighter. And I know he's had that loss to, was it Erickson Leuven? I thought he actually won that fight, but he'll get another shot. And you got to add him to the mix. There's so many really good 154-pounders out there at the moment. And as far as Fundora goes, I've got him at about number 6 or 7 in the division. That's how stacked it is at 154. And Jesus Ramos, I wouldn't probably have him above Fundora, but around the mark, and he would be a real good test for Fundora as well. And you got to maybe get the impression that maybe they had Jesus Ramos on the card just in case something happened to Chordale Booker. So what have we got there? Sorry, I just got a message there. All right. So, all right. So what else? What's up there? No, he took out Joey Spencer in 7 rounds. Yeah, he did. We forgot about that too. Yeah, and dominated him. But you're right. He can punch, and Spencer can take a punch. So, yeah, we actually spoke about Tim today on the D-Style show, and yeah, he's got. I think he's custom made for Tim, but. I think he's going to be the perfect fight for Tim in, when is it? April 6th. All right, Big J. Finally, Sky Nicholson gets exposed as the 2-bit plain Jane amateur that she is. Jeez, Big J, don't hold back there, mate. Both girl fights were terrible. So much holding, they looked like 2 schoolgirls pulling each other's hair. Well, look. I actually thought Shanika Johnson was quite impressive, Big J. She does spoil her work sometimes with the way she fights, but Nina Hughes, geez, what is she, 42? She looked every year of that, didn't she? Or every bit of 42. She didn't look anything like she did last year when she fought Sky, and I know at 42 you can pretty much age overnight, but I was surprised at how dominant Shanika Johnson was. As for Sky Nicholson, I think I said this morning, mate, I was really disappointed in her reaction to who was her name? Tiara Brown. When she put the pressure on and stopped her from having it all her own way, Sky Nicholson was just completely lost. And it was always going to be hard because Sky's not a big puncher, and it's very, very hard to keep a puncher off you if you've got nothing coming in return. An aggressive, strong fighter like Tiara Brown. And Sky just really struggled to get off or compete with her. And that's going to be the blueprint going forward. Anyone that's going to be rough and tough and get close to Sky and cut off those escape routes that she has with those little check hooks she does to the right and little flick off to the left as well, little pivot as well. If they cut off those escape routes, she hasn't really got anything in return, and that's the worry. Now, these girls will fight in a rematch, no doubt about that. But, yeah, you just got to worry. I did say in the chat as well, or the video this morning, that I'm just thankful that she didn't come up against Amanda Serrano and get her wish because she thought Tiara Brown was tough. Well, imagine Serrano in there who just she's the strongest Tiara Brown, but she can punch. She punches like a man. Like Tiara Brown, I don't think had any real pop in her punches at all, but Amanda Serrano does, and I would think that she'll probably stop Sky Nicholson. So, look, maybe it's a learning curve. Maybe she'll use it, get a rematch, hopefully win, and then maybe learn from it and get a fight with Serrano. But she's got a long way to go if she thinks she's going to compete with Amanda Serrano. All right, Sammy T. Tiara talks some mad shit and really got into Sky's head. Sky's used to having all the pre-fight stuff respectful and cordial. This is the first time a fighter's done it to her and a mess with her. Well, she did, Sammy, and that's the disappointing thing. I don't think we saw anything from Tiara Brown that we didn't expect. She did exactly what she wanted, or she said she was going to do. She walked up on Sky. She put the pressure on Sky. She bullied her. I still think Tiara Brown's a pretty average fighter, if I'm being honest. But Sky, that's what disappointed me the most. I expected her to go with Tiara Brown, be smart, and outsmart Tiara Brown and outbox her. And as soon as that gap got closed, and like I said, the escape routes got closed off as well, she just really had nothing except to hold. Now, I had it 6 rounds to 4 for Tiara Brown. I know there's a lot of close rounds in there, and it could have been a draw and all the rest. I did expect Sky to get the decision, though. I did, even though I had Tiara Brown in front. So it was good that at least, in my opinion, the right fighter won the fight. I just don't think, even if you are the champion, you can be rewarded for just running and holding. And that's literally all she did. I don't think I saw a half-decent punch by either of them land throughout the whole fight. A couple little jabs and maybe some straight lefts or rights, whatever. But wasn't a great fight, as Big J said. I thought the Shanika Johnson fight was better. I don't think either girl really showed they were that really A-grade type of champion. So anyway, I'm sure they'll fight again, and who knows, Sky can get the job done this time. But you are right there, Sammy. She did get into her head. Big J. Yeah. R.I.P. to George Foreman. We lost the lady of the last, I'm assuming there. The last of the greats. I bet he's up there arguing with Ali over who was better. Heaven gets rematch that we never got. Yeah, mate, I'm with you. And, again, I make no apologies. I said it today on D-Style's show. No apologies that when I saw the news, I had to stop and sort of, take a breath and, take a bit of a gulp because it was like, shit, And as you get older, this hits home even harder. And he's only 76, so it's not like he was in his 80s or whatever it might have been, where you might expect 76. I know it's older, but it's definitely not the type of age where you pass away of natural causes. So I'm sure it'll come to light what was wrong with him, but I didn't have any idea that there was anything wrong with him in the first place. So it came just completely out of the blue for me. And, as I said, I must admit I stopped and, wow, But again, as I said this morning in the walking boxing, the three of them are finally reunited, and you're right, they'll be all up there arguing amongst themselves. And George Foreman giving as good as he gets, as he did in the ring as well. Sammy, I really like the Mazudia versus Dan Hill fight on the Zoo undercard. It's a really even matchup that should be exciting. Cohen's more skillful, but Dan Hill's gas tank and pressure is impressive. Look, I think it's a really 50-50 fight, Sammy. And look, I think Dan Hill is a real live chance in that fight. I'm a fan of Cohen. Don't get me wrong. I think he's a good domestic level fighter. But I think Dan Hill's style was going to trouble Mazudia. I think his work rate, he's getting inside, he likes to bang. Cohen sort of likes to box from a distance a little bit as well. Not that he's a boxer or necessarily a puncher. He's just a bit of everything, isn't he, Cohen? But I think Dan Hill's going to trouble him, Sammy. Look, I'm probably still going to go with Cohen Mazudia because of his experience, and we did see Dylan Biggs sort of withstand Dan Hill sort of onslaught and get him late. So maybe Cohen Mazudia will do the same, but I would not be surprised if Dan Hill wins this fight. Definitely a 50-50 anyway. All right, Big J. A terrible crowd. Also only about 3,000 for a 21,000-seat arena. That's completely pathetic. George is not a draw anymore. Well, it's hard to argue, Big J. I'm still trying to get my head around it. I don't think it was marketed properly. I've just got a feeling that Eddie Hearn came to Australia, probably a little bit like they did with the Liam Paro and Brock Jarvis fight. Just put it on social media, do a press conference, put the poster up, and then everything takes care of itself. Now, as we all know, probably unless it's Tim Tszyu, it doesn't work that way. You got to really work for your money in Australia. And I've just got a feeling Eddie, just maybe the promoters of well, I know he's the lead promoter, but maybe the other promoters involved and the local guys involved, which is Ferocious Promotions, maybe spun him the line or the story, whatever it is, that George is a massive draw in Sydney. Eddie doesn't know that, by the way, does he? I mean, he's fought in Melbourne and drawn well. He's fought in Perth and drawn well. But look at the opponents that he fought. They were A-graders. George initially against Duard Jordan was never going to sell. And then the late replacement, some people would have went, okay, including me, okay, now we've got a fight. George still wins, but it's a better fight. But there were a lot of people would have thought, hang on, it goes from an Indonesian, over-the-hill Indonesian, to some young kid who's never fought anybody. So that's probably even worse to a lot of people. It was just a bad promotion, Big J. And as I said, Eddie's probably got to get in his head. If he comes to Australia, he's really got to promote it up. Now, who knows when the DAZN and Foxtel becomes official and they all get together and the DAZN fights are on Foxtel. Remember, not everyone's got DAZN. Only the hardcore boxing fans have got DAZN. So we all knew what was going on, and we all talk amongst each other and online or on the social media sites. But the general punter out there that watches Foxtel on a normal night, it might be on Fox Footy or NRL channel, whatever that's called, Fox League or whatever it is, or any channel, and they promote the pay-per-views over and over and over again. So you got the casuals going, oh, shit, that actually looks pretty good. I think I'll buy that. Get some boys over and we'll buy that. You don't get it with DAZN. You only get the hardcores that know what's going on that'll buy it. Well, they didn't even have to buy it. So they watch it for free. And that's why I think Eddie's, and probably even Ferocious Promotions and George and Jim and everyone have got to get their model right. And I think, like, when they do join, it's going to be a lot easier to market the event, but it still doesn't explain 3,000 people. If that is true, Big J, 3,000 people getting there out of 21. If it was only 3, they did a really good job of masking it, Big J, because you couldn't really see a lot of those seats, could you? But you could sort of hear it in the crowd. That was, a few echoes in there. But, yeah, so, look, I think the whole thing was very poorly promoted, Big J. I just think Eddie just thought, it's George Kambosos. It's in his hometown. Let's do a press conference. And it wasn't even really a big press conference either, was it? Nothing like what No Limit do. And it was just put out there, and I think it was just expected to sell. And it just doesn't work that way. Australia is a very, very hard country to crack because there's so much else going on, and boxing is right down the pecking order. So I hope they learn from it, because really George Kambosos in Sydney should be drawing at least 10 to 12,000. I don't know what they were thinking about putting in a 21,000-seat arena. I mean, they couldn't even get, I think, 10,000 for the Devon Haney rematch in a sports mad city like Melbourne. So what are they going to do against initially the Indonesian and then the unproven kid in a 21,000-seat arena? Just poor all round, BJ. And George Kambosos deserves to be fighting in front of 10,000 people, but I just think they dropped the ball big time. So let's hope they learn from it. And Eddie maybe does a little bit more research into it, maybe sends a team out here to help with the on-the-ground stuff here in Australia, and they can get to know their audience, because I just don't think they know the audience. They just, Eddie Hearn, like I said, put George out, put him on a poster. I'll come out here a couple of days before, be happy days. Not going to happen. All right, Sammy, very disappointed with Jai's lackluster opponent. Yeah, sorry, I didn't even mention that. He's only fought in his native Italy. He's a very short cruiserweight. I thought he was Mexican. I might have looked at the flag and mixed that up. Sorry, he's Italian, of course. He's a very short cruiserweight. Hasn't been anyone of note. And in his mid-30s, surely there was someone else. I agree, Sammy. Not a great opponent. I did watch a bit of him on YouTube. Let's just say this. Well, I don't think it's going to be Duarte Jordan revisited, but because I'm sure they'll promote him up a lot more than what they did with the Indonesian. But yeah, I don't think Jai would be happy about it either, Sammy. Look, I said it the other day. I reckon what's happened here is that Jai desperately wants the Zurdo fight. Zurdo's obviously decided to take the mandatory. I reckon they've said to Jai, look, we'll just get you an in-between fight and we'll get you on that big Saudi Arabia card later in the year against Zurdo. So take the fight, take it as a tune-up, keep busy fight, and let's get on with it. I'm not that stressed about it. Look, the opponent, I'm with you, Sammy. I'm disappointed, but, this is boxing. This is the way it used to be. You take tune-up fights, in-between fights. So this is what Jai's doing. This is his second fight. It's only going to be, is it May, isn't it? So he'll fight again in probably September. Who knows? Might even go at the end of the year. And to have 3 or 4 fights in a year being a cruiserweight, it's unheard of. So I'm not totally against it. Yeah, a little bit disappointed with the choice, Sammy T, but not so stressed that he's just going to take an easy tune-up fight. All right, Eminem, I love the comment Eddie Hearn has made about Australian boxing purse as well. He definitely didn't pull his punches, Eddie Eminem, because I said again today that he actually called No Limit and had to ask for a favour so they would release Jake Wiley from his fight with Joel Taylor so that Jake could fight George. And then at the press conference, he has a dig at the promoter without mentioning the name, but we all know who he's talking about the boxing purses and how it's pretty much criminal what they get paid. Now, he's right, by the way, but it is the market. This is the thing. We all want the fighters to be paid, $50,000 for a 10-rounder, but it just doesn't work that way. The money's just not there. So again, I think Eddie's got to learn or understand his market a little bit better. This isn't England. This isn't Saudi Arabia. It's certainly not America. You can only pay the fighters what the fights generate, and unfortunately, it's just not the market here. So, I've heard that No Limit actually pay the fighters okay. I'm not 100% sure what they pay them, but I've heard fighters are okay and happy with what they get paid. So, but Eddie Hearn certainly did strike a chord, didn't he? And maybe he's decided because his comments sort of came without prompting from any journalist. So there's got to be some sort of hidden agenda there. I've got a feeling maybe he's targeted Australia and thought, why am I going to let these guys, No Limit I'm talking about, dictate to me and put me as a second fiddle in Australia? I don't roll that way. And we all know Eddie Hearn, he's got aspirations to be the biggest and best promoter in the world. Or maybe he already is. But I got a feeling he's looked at the Australian market and said, well, if I'm going to be half serious about this country, I'm not going to just work in with No Limit and just be the second fiddle. I want to be number one. And it's all going to change when all the TV obviously meshes together. But maybe it was the first shot across the bows from Eddie Hearn towards No Limit, and we're about to have a promoter war, which would be great for Australian boxing. We'll see. All right, Big J. Having said that, Brown looked terrible. Yep, pulled several punches and rarely landed a clean shot. George was also not that impressive. To be taken the distance by a domestic level fighter, not good. I'm not that stressed about going the distance, Big J. I know on paper he should have got him out of there, but I'm not that stressed about it. I'm not. Look, after he got cut, he looked great for the first few rounds, and after he got cut, we talked about it, Will, just before. I just think, in my opinion, he did go into self-preservation mode or cautious mode just to get through the fight. So he didn't know how serious the cut was. And he thought it was maybe a Tim Tszyu situation. So he just wanted to get through. So I got no dramas for him becoming cautious and boxing carefully and just winning a decision. He won probably 9 rounds. So, yeah, I'm not that stressed about it. All right, Tom's dad, Naz. How good was Joe Parker's call-out video to Usyk? I hope he gets his shot. I didn't actually see that, Naz. I was busy most of today, so if it was on today, I missed it, mate, but I'll check it out later. But if anyone else saw it, let us know. May 13 is a Tuesday night, odd night for fights, but I don't mind it. Yeah, looks, these are TV events, I remember, Eminem, these days. Normally Wednesdays, of course, so being a Tuesday doesn't really make sense either, does it? But it'll be, so when's the Tim Tszyu? That's April, isn't it? April 6th. I'm not sure why it's a Tuesday, but I don't mind it. I don't mind it at all, mate, to be on a Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night, whatever. As long as it's not on a night that the footy's on, I'm not stressed. And even now it's on with the footy, I wouldn't be stressed as being a Carlton supporter. I'd watch the boxing instead. All right, what do we got, Dan? We got D-Style. How are you there, mate? Thanks for the $2. Thanks for joining the show today. No worries at all, mate. It was great to have a chat with you. If you haven't, again, followed D-Style, make sure you do. And hopefully I'll get on there often and have a chat to D-Style. But, mate, it's always great. And I know you appreciate getting a little bit of a different point of view from other countries and doing great things there, mate. Fantastic. All right. Loving that Jai Patai is staying busy and just wants to fight. Yeah, he wouldn't be happy with the opponent, as I said, Eminem. But, this guy, look, I've got a feeling they might have said, hey, look, let Zerdo have his mandatory and we'll hang around for September and Jai, or whenever it's September, October, and Jai Patai has said, the hell you will. I need to fight, and they've just decided to feed him this guy and put him back in his cage and then wait for September, October. That's what I think's happening. So I'm not stressed about it at all. It's going to be an early night, Eminem. Don't worry about that. I've seen the guy fight. He doesn't know what a jab is. He puts his head down and just throws big bolo punches over the top. And Jai Patai will just take him on his gloves and just absolutely rip him apart. But, it'll be a good night of fights. Let's hope they have a good undercard. The last one with Nyika wasn't overly great, if I'm being honest. So let's hope they get a few more better fights on this one. All right, Eminem again. Glad Wiley stepped in and saved the event, but wasn't overly impressed with George and can't see him winning another world title. Hope I'm wrong, though. Yeah, again, it's hard to make any real judgment on an Eminem. I just think, again, he just boxed carefully when he knew he was cut. Didn't want it to get worse. He would have been thinking, shit, if it's not that bad, I'm still in with a chance to fight Hitchens, which it looks like he is. I mean, imagine if he had kept going at Wiley and the cut opened up and he's out. He's out for 6 months. And we've got another Sam Goodman situation. So, and look, George will probably get paid a couple of $1 million for that. There's big stakes, so I've got no issue with it. All right, who are we expecting on the Jai card on May 13th? Benny Mahoney by the sounds. I think you'll get the same fighters we just got on the Nyika and Jai card, Eminem. I think there'll be Ben. There'll probably be Terramona again. Who else will there be? Look, maybe they'll put Connor Wallace or someone on there to keep him busy, which would be good. But look, yeah, I'm not expecting, Connor Wallace versus Paul Awakusa or anything like that. But I think you'll get the same type of fights we had on the initial card, mate. And as they always do, Tasman, they'll give a few young up-and-comers a crack as well. All right, Drew Keeley. Sad to see Big George Foreman passed away. Rank him as the second greatest heavyweight that ever lived. Only behind Ali with Joe Lewis third. The more Victor will live with me forever. I'm with you there, Drew. Look, I think I've done this before, haven't I? I had Ali at 1. I think I might have had, who did I have at number 2? I can't remember. Maybe it was Joe Lewis. And I think I had Larry Holmes at number 3. And George might have been at 4 or 5, I think. So, but either way, it doesn't matter. I'm with you. I mean, he's in the top 5 pound for pound of all time, George Foreman. And look, the fact that he had 2 careers, 20 years apart or whatever, won the title 20 years apart, wow, it's just an amazing feat and solidified his place in history forever. And I said that on D-Styles channel today, that if he had retired after the Jimmy Young fight, we probably wouldn't be talking about George Foreman the way we do now because he still would have been a young man. But the fact he came back and had the second career, which is just mind-blowing to think a fighter has 2 separate careers and a 20-year gap in between winning those types. Most fighters only have a 10 or 12-year career as a pro. He went 20 years between winning the belt. Just amazing. Yeah, look, but as I said, mate, look, it doesn't matter. I wouldn't have him at number 2, but I'm certainly not going to argue with you having him there because he was such a great fighter. And maybe you are right. The fact that he did what he did, those achievements, maybe that does qualify him to be number 2. But look, pound for pound rankings for me, all-time rankings, I think you should just sort of have a blanket top 10 and don't worry about the particular order. Maybe have your number 1 and then have the other 9 just wherever. Mutsy. George is going to struggle to keep anyone of note off him at 140. Yeah, that's my concern too, Mutsy. I just don't think he's got the power and size and strength at 140. I always thought he was a small lightweight. And at 140, and you see how bigger Jake Wiley looked than him on Saturday night. I know Jake's a big, strong young kid, but the fact that George couldn't have hurt Jake once during the fight, he did clip him a few times, but didn't hurt him. It's a worry, Mutsy. It's a worry. I don't think he'll have to worry about that against Richardson Hitchens, of course. But imagine him if he comes up against a Pitbull Cruz or someone like that, one of those real bangers, he might be in a bit of trouble. But look, end of the day, it's a good problem to have. He's going to get the opportunity to fight these guys. He's a chance to beat Richardson Hitchens, but as I said earlier, he does struggle with those type of fighters. So let's hope he can learn from the Haney and Lomachenko fights and put into practice against Hitchens. Yeah, Eminem, yeah, WBO has mandated Fundora Zayas. I saw that. There's a bit of an odd sort of face-off or get-together in the ring after it wasn't Eminem. He did get in the ring, and apparently Zayas wanted to do a face-off in the change room to sort of announce the fight, and Fundora didn't want a bar of it. And Zayas apparently acted like a bit of a horse's ass. So from all reports, Fundora and Samson Lukovic weren't impressed, and they might just go another way and just give up that WBO belt and chase another fight. Bakram Murtazaliev has thrown his hat in the ring. I'm not quite sure Fundora would want that smoke, but we will see. Credit to him if he does, though. I think if he fights a what do you call it, a unifying fight, so if he fights Bakram Murtazaliev, I'm pretty sure he can get around the mandatory defense Eminem. I'm pretty sure if you have a unification, it sort of null and voids everything. So we'll see what happens. Asbot. Any last-minute thoughts on Zoo and Spencer? Do you have any intel on his prep? I haven't got a lot, surprisingly, Asbot. It sort of snuck up on us a little bit, hasn't it? It's only 2 weeks away. I've heard that he's looking super sharp, but of course I always say that. I mean, before the Murtazaliev fight, he was in career best form, wasn't he, Tim? Anything can happen. Look, I'm expecting a good win by Tim Zoo over Joey Spencer. I think Joey Spencer will be tough. He'll go at Tim. He'll give him a good fight, but I'm expecting a unanimous, clear-cut 12-round decision win. Is it 12 or 10? I'm assuming it's 12. Being an eliminator, I would assume that Tim will win a clear-cut decision. Spencer's no slouch, don't get me wrong. I'll put an asterisk beside it that Tim has to fight like the old Tim. Patient and taking his time and picking his shots. Nice and tight defense. That's going to get the job done. But if he comes out against like he did against Murtazaliev against Spencer, well, who knows? And I'll be disappointed if that's the case. If he hasn't learned from the Murtazaliev fight and fights the same way and tries to take Spencer out, then I suppose I stand behind my comments that maybe he should have changed trainers. I've got enough faith in Tim and his team that he will learn from it, and you'll see a nice, tight, patient, calculated Tim Zoo and winning an easy decision. But I haven't had that much intel on his prep, but I don't think anyone has. A few people that I know in the know, they haven't really got a lot either, so maybe they're keeping it under wraps. But apparently he's pretty sharp, as you would expect. All right, Jake Pierce, boxing. How are you there, mate? I have a few opinions to share on the other night. Okay, let me have it. What do we got? What's that? Hang on, we'll go back to Jack, sorry. 1, Taramona is a great talent, but looked terrible, and if he fights like that against a big puncher, he's in trouble. Jack, I agree, mate. I was disappointed in Taramona's performance, and I know that's hard to sort of get your head around considering he won in a first-round knockout, but he went out there and he just no regard for defense or maybe working on some things I've been doing in the gym. That Singh was a perfect opponent to just take your time. It might have been Gareth Williams saying to Taramona, maybe he did, I don't know, but to say to Taramona, all right, we're going to use this guy for 3 or 4 rounds. All right, okay, we've got plenty of time. I think they knew they were going to knock him out any time they wanted to. All right, so for the first couple of rounds, let's just work on keeping our distance and working on a good stiff jab. All right, that's for the first couple of rounds, or maybe even the first round. The second round, we're going to work on following with a nice right hand afterwards. Careful he didn't knock him out, though, but just stiff jab and then the right hand. And it might be a little bit of lateral movement. It might be working on his body punches. He had a perfect opportunity to work on some things that they've no doubt been working on in the gym. And all he did was go out there and put his chin up in the air and flail away from the grandstands and try and knock him out. And he got tagged a couple of times. Now, the way he fought Jack has, like, it's a Tim Zoo situation all over again. If he goes in, if he keeps bowling over these We'll call them tomato cans, all right? That's the term, all right? And no offense to those guys. They're brave to get in there with Terramona or just in the ring in general, so I respect them. So maybe tomato cans might be a bit harsh. But anyway, those fighters that he's in there with, none of them are going to have a chance to beat him. So why not use them up rather than just blowing them all out of there and getting this false sense of security that you're the next coming of George Foreman and you're going to nail all these guys? Because I'm telling you, you get in with one of those hotshot heavyweights out there and you try that shit, you're getting knocked out. And I'm sure if you pick up the phone and give Tim Zhu a call, he'll tell you all about it. So I was disappointed in it, Jack, and I would hope that Gareth Williams put him aside afterwards and said, what was that, Terramona? We got nothing out of that fight. We got nothing. All we did was go and blow this guy out, and we may as well not have even have fought. I know it's a payday and everything else, but he could have done so much more. I know you want these highlight reel knockouts, and that's great, but do it in the 4th or 5th round. All right, work on some things. As I said, work on your jab, work on your movement, work on your body punches, work on whatever. Maybe take a round where you don't throw any punches at all. Let him do the punching and practice defense, whatever. But I just think he really lost an opportunity to get something out of that fight, and he didn't, mate. And he did wear a couple. And try that against Moses Itama or someone. It's good night. So, anyway. All right, there's Ronnie. Nobody would know more than you, Lynden, about promoting fights and the payment of them. So what are your thoughts on Eddie Hearn about Australian boxers being grossly underpaid? As I said, mate, I agree with Eddie, but Eddie also probably doesn't know the whole ins and outs of Aussie boxing and how hard it is here. He's used to just putting a fight on and it packs out, they sell pay-per-views and they make a lot of money and they walk away. And as you know, I know more about these type of promotions than anyone. Put on a lot, not big promotions, but costly promotions, hard to... you've got to work your ass off to get people interested in it, and not just the family and friends, to get the everyday fans to roll up. It's bloody tough. And I think George Kambosos found that out the hard way, or Eddie Hearn found that out the hard way on Saturday night. So, but he is right, mate. Australian boxers are underpaid compared to other countries. But I think they're getting paid what the promotion can afford. You got to remember too, someone like saying No Limit, they've got to make money as well. And this whole myth about promoters making all this money, I can tell you is exactly that. It's a myth. The big ones do make money, don't get me wrong, but all the ones like Will Tomlinson before, yeah, they might make a little bit, but you're certainly not going to have a great living out of putting on 2 or 3 shows a year or whatever it might be. It's tough. So he is right, Ronnie, but I'm not quite sure he quite understands the dynamics of the boxing scene in Australia. All right, Glenn, evening all. Can we all just admit the Skies is a bit of a one-trick pony? Is a bit of a one-trick pony, and that George had his 15 minutes of fame against T.O. and just isn't elite. It's hard to argue with Glenn. I'm sort of hoping that George can show something, but I mean, it's look. I'm a fan of George, but I can't argue with your comments there, Glenn. I can't. Facts of the matter are he's lost. Well, before the Wiley fight, he lost 3 out of 4, and that one win was very, very questionable. I was at that fight, and I thought he lost 8 rounds, if I'm being honest. And Saturday night's hard to get a gauge because it's Jake Wiley, an inexperienced kid. I don't know, mate. I don't know. Maybe he's just the type of guy who just needs that challenge to get up. And Teofimo Lopez was made for him, and he looked great. He did get up for Lomachenko and Haney, but they were just the wrong style for him. So maybe Hitchens, who's not a Lomachenko, is not a Haney, maybe he can get himself up for that, and we can see the George evolve. But again, Glenn, I'm sort of hoping more than expecting at this stage. All right, number 2 from Jack Pearce. Jake Wiley looked shaky early on, took the shots better and got better as the fight went on, but he'll get iced by a world-class puncher at the weight. Yeah, it remains to be seen, Jake. I think hopefully they'll just build him up and don't throw him to the wolves too quickly. I don't mind them signing him up and giving him a chance, but what do you got there? So he did take the shots, yep, got better as the fight went on, but will he get iced? Well, I suppose the proof will be in the pudding, mate. All right, Glenn, only fight I really enjoyed on Saturday night was the light heavyweights. Great fight. That Argentinian was tough. Wow, what a fight that was. And I said, and I'll ask the question, was it that Kataev, is he overrated or was the Argentinian underrated, or did they just take him easy? I think he expected to get him out of there in the first 3 or 4 rounds. And as I just spoke about with Terramona, that's what can happen if you just forget about what you've been doing in the gym and working on stuff and you try and blow a guy away. And I think he punched himself out and wore punches in return. He was lucky he didn't get the fight stopped because of the eye. He would have lost because I don't think it was ruled a headbutt or accidental elbow or whatever. So very, very lucky, Glenn. But you always find all the elite fighters have a fight or two like that on the way up where they get tested and they've got to dig deep and readjust. It's part of the learning curve. I think it'll make Kadeev a better fighter. But he did definitely expose some flaws. What's his name? Polanchi or whatever his name is? The Argentinian anyway. All right, Jack, number 3. Iman Kadeev needs to sort out whatever caused him to get so tired because that was a tough fight and he was in real trouble. Again, Jack, I just think he expected to go out there and wipe him out in 2 or 3 rounds, mate. I think he punched himself out and was very lucky to get through. And I think he was lucky that the Argentinian wasn't necessarily a big puncher. He's tough as nails, of course, but wasn't a big puncher and wasn't that real elite type of fighter who could make Kadeev pay by getting tired and then putting the pressure on later in the fight. I think he allowed Kadeev to still dictate the pace of the fight, and that's the reason why he was able to hang in for the whole 10 rounds. If he had a guy that when Kadeev was trying to rest, actually up the pace and put it back on him, he would have been in all sorts of trouble. But hopefully he learns from it and he becomes a better fighter because of it. All right, Naz, I know Zayas is mandated for Fundora, but he hasn't beaten anyone other than Teixeira. Would love to see Virgil, Bakram or Ramos get the shot. I think all of them beat Fundora. I think Zayas beats Fundora too, Naz, if I'm being honest. I think Virgil, Bakram and Ramos all knock Fundora out. Yep, that's my prediction. I think Zayas maybe knocks him out as well. I just think Fundora, even though he's tall with the reach and everything else, he just doesn't do anything particularly well. And he can be knocked out. I think if you get past those first few rounds and get your range and getting close, then you can really do some damage to Fundora. Now, Tim didn't do that because he couldn't see. And he had to sort of stay from a distance to try and get his bearings a little bit. Maybe in hindsight, it would have been better if he closed the distance and tried to get as close as he could to Fundora. But, I mean, the guy literally fought with a blindfold on. So, but I think Fundora would be in big trouble against those 3 guys you've listed there, Naz, and Zayas as well. All right, Drew, Hitchens is all wrong for George, but I love how he always wants the best guys win or lose. Exactly, Drew. You can't take that away from George. That's what I said earlier. No matter what you think of him, the fact that he won the belts and he wanted Devin Haney, well, he actually wanted Lomachenko straight away. He's like, yep, give me Loma. Loma, of course, with the Ukraine stuff, couldn't fight, so he went to Devin Haney. He could have fought anyone. He went for Devin Haney. Then he wanted Lomachenko. And now he wants Hitchens. And now he wants a rematch with Lopez. I mean, you can't, in my opinion, you can't have a go at George. You might say he's limited and he's had his 15 minutes of fame, but geez, I don't know how you can be disrespectful to someone like George who's just saying, hey, just bring it. I'll fight anyone. All right, Glenn. He was in trouble a couple of times. This is George. Needs to shorten his punches up a bit. This is Kadeev. Needs to shorten his punches up a bit and mix up his rhythm. Yeah, well, he looked at very one-dimensional, Glenn. Very one-dimensional. And as I said, let's hope he learns from it. Matzi, I'm hoping Ramos will get a shot at Fundora. Ramos would starch him. Yes, I agree. Drew, people unfairly smashed George for getting all the big fights off the back of his monumental TO win, but I'm not mad at it because boxing is a tough sport and he fights the very best. Well, mate, some of the biggest stars in history never really had massive wins. Look, someone like, who's the top off the top of my head? Say a Ray Boom Boom Mancini. One of the hottest stars and most respected fighters of all time. I mean, the fans over there loved him. Never had a legacy win. And he actually, when he fought a quality fighter in Livingston Bramble, rest in peace to Livingston Bramble as well over the weekend, he got towed up and stopped and then beaten easy in the rematch. So, yeah, I just don't think George gets the respect that he deserves. He won. I know they keep saying the WBC title wasn't there, but hey, I don't care. The asterisk is involved in his win. He, for me, was the undisputed lightweight champion of the world and deserves respect no matter what happens from now. So, all right, Double G. Not 100% sure, but Iman Kadeev might have been going through Ramadan, which might explain his energy that Jack mentioned earlier in the chat. Well, I don't know why they put him in the ring if that is the case, Double G. It doesn't make sense. I know Ramadan is it for a month or whatever it is. Why put him in the ring? Put him on another card. Doesn't make sense that you'd put someone like him and who was the other one? Murtazalia was the other one, wasn't it? That fought during Ramadan. Doesn't make sense to me. You've got all year to plan your events or plan your fights. Why are you putting a fight on during Ramadan or put him on a card during Ramadan? Doesn't make much sense to me. But all right, Jack. All right, you got another one. Number 4. I share your praise for George Kambosos. I actually boxed him as an amateur. There you go. And he was always a standout for his work ethic and focus. But the Richardson-Hitchens fight is all wrong for him. Yeah, I tend to agree, Jack. All right, Glenn, we'll get through a few of these comments. Look, all credit to George, but I think he can only live on that win for so long. He literally lost twice to Haney, Loma, and Maxie Hughes. Got robbed, and I'd suggest that's why the crowd was so poor. I don't think that's why the crowd was poor, Glenn. I agree with your points there. I don't think that was the reason why it was poor. As I said earlier, I just think it was a very, very poorly promoted event, and the choice of opponent was just, well, even poorer. They should have got, if they wanted to get a win under George's belt, they could have got a credible journeyman to get it, say, from America or England or somewhere, put him in there. They would have been able to, especially if it was an American. Someone that could come out and George could, he might have been a former contender, former world title challenger, whatever it might have been. Might have even been a former champion, although I can't think of one off my head that would be an easy kill. But they could have easily sold it to the Sydney public. That, look, we've got this American over here, and he's this and he's that, and it's a tough test for George. I mean, geez, No Limit do it better than anyone. So they just talk the opponents up, and they're world beaters. But they put Jordan on the poster alongside George, and I thought that would be enough, and it wasn't. So again, mate, I agree with your comments about Haney, Loma, and Maxi, but I'm not quite sure that was the reason why he lost. The crowd was so poor. Andy in the super chat, away, mate. $10. Thank you very much. Cambo earns his dollars chasing biggest fights versus best competition available. Congratulations to all the winners over the weekend. Smash the like button. 100%, mate. Thank you very much. All right, Drew. If Tim loses to Spencer, I almost feel like his career could be over as a major player. I think Tim will win, but expect the fight to go the distance. Well, Drew, mate, that's a great. Well, it's pretty much an understatement, really. I mean, if he loses, it's career over. At least at the big stage. And if it's over at the big or on the big stage, why would you even bother? He's on the razor's edge, Drew. He really is. It's going to be tough enough to come back from those losses last year, especially the Murtazalia fight. And that's why I'm glad with the next 2 opponents. I'm glad that he's got Spencer, and I'm glad he's got Thurman. I think he beats both of them. And it gives him an opportunity to come back or go back to that top level. But if he loses this, it's all over, Drew. No one will touch him. And that's why he's on the razor's edge. Because if he wins, hey, anything can happen. He gets another crack at it. I'm not saying he's going to win world titles and beat the elite fighters in the division, but it will at least give him an opportunity to have another crack. But if he loses, it's all over. There's nowhere to go. Nowhere to go. All right, Jack, I think Joey Spencer could be a challenging fight for Zoo. Zoo should get him out of there, but Spencer is a very live, very motivated, good aggression. He is, Jack. Again, I'll say it, he's a perfect opponent for Tim. A credible opponent. He can fight. He can punch. He's got good skills. Was the PBC Prospect of the Year at some stage. But the thing is, limited skills and not a big puncher. He's tough, but not a big puncher, and that's why I think Tim should be able to take his time, have a good look at him, set him up for his punches, and have a nice, convincing win. So I think No Limit have done a very, very good job of picking this opponent. And even if Joey Spencer happens to beat Tim Tszyu, I know there'll be everyone saying, whoa, what were they thinking? Putting Tim in with a Prospect of the Year a couple of years ago and a tough American. I don't care what happens in the fight. For me, this is the perfect opponent. And if he can't beat Joey Spencer, then, again, it's all over. I know in hindsight, the Murtazalia fight, we can all say, what the hell were they thinking? But in this case, if he does happen to lose, I'm not going to throw one bit of shade, as they say, at No Limit. I think he's the perfect opponent. And if you can't beat him, then that's on Tim, not No Limit. All right. When are we doing a deep dive again? Missed doing it. Yeah, I'll be doing it soon, Big J. This is the fight week. Yeah, I will do that. We might do it for Tim, actually. yeah, that might. I want to bring back the fight week show, and if you haven't seen that before, it's where we preview the event and go through all the fights and have a discussion about it all, and again, just preview the event. So we will do it for the was it April 6th show with Tim Zoo, Big J, which will probably be a Thursday night before the fight. Cal Jane, have you heard any about who Usyk fights and George Kambosos look worse than opponent? Cheers for your courage. No worries, Cal. Well, it's looking. I think everyone wants him to fight Parker, but from what I've seen and heard, Cal, it's looking more and more likely he's going to go for the Dubois rematch. I think the fact that Dubois pulled out of the Parker fight shows you that it's going to be Dubois. I think Usyk. I think word got through that, and I don't know why they would do it fight week. Maybe they had a thought or an idea that the Usyk team. All right, we're going to fight Dubois next, so words got back to Dubois, and they said, "Well, shit, we're not going to risk it against a great fighter or a very, very good fighter like Joseph Parker." So, geez, I can feel the flu coming on, and pulled him out of there. So, but yeah, I think it'll be Dubois, mate. Tony Clifton, why do the Benavides crew so damn rude to all their opponents? If the Bivol fight goes ahead, I think Dimitri won't engage with the rudeness and disrespect. I'm with you there, Tony. I don't like the whole attitude of Benavides and his crew at all. Especially, the last fight, he's F this and F that, and he's got his little kid on his knee. I mean, what sort of example is that? I don't like it. I know he's supposed to be a badass and all the rest of it, but have a little bit of respect for everyone, especially for your kids. I know life's different these days for everyone, but you got a young kid on your lap and you F this and see that. Don't like it. Don't like it. I know I'm old, by the way. Okay. All right, Naz. Matchroom need to take a leaf out of Mick Francis' book and get as many of the Aussie content creators as they can up to the shows to at least get some coverage of the shows out there. Great call, Naz. Very, very good call. That was a very, very good call by Mick Francis to do that. Now, I think I've said on here before, he actually rang me and said, "Are you coming?" I was like, I wasn't sort of maybe planning on it. I was sort of in, sort of out. And he said, "Mate, come up. You got to come up." He said, "I'll look after you. I'll give you a press pass and get you in it wherever you need to go. I want you to come up and cover it." And obviously he said that to a lot of others as well. That is getting your head around the new age, the way it's done. And with Matchroom, as I said before, they just put the poster on social media, got a little bit of coverage and thought that would be enough. They should have done exactly what Mick Francis did and got every single creator in Sydney and got him promoting the fight, especially when things weren't looking great for ticket sales. They should have rang everyone out there and said, "Hey, even to the point, we'll put you up in a hotel room, whatever it might be, and let's get you up there to cover it." There's a lot of good creators in Australian boxing, the media. I've seen a lot of them up there for the Jai fight, and there's more coming, by the way. There's more and more coming through, and I think it's great. They should have put an open invitation out to those creators and got them to that fight. Good call, Naz. I like that one. Shadow Boxer, do you throw the hook with the thumb up or facing you? Been debating my mate about this. I was taught with the thumb up. Shadow Boxer, if your mate is saying it should be the thumb facing you, I want you to actually give him a left hook yourself with the thumb up. All right? Slip outside and throw the hook with the thumb up and give him a good one. Because if he's obviously an amateur fighter or something, he's in. And what we're meaning here, I saw us do it there. If you punch like that with your hook, then you're doing it wrong, okay? It is thumb up. And if you want to see how a left hook's thrown, go have a look at some of the great Mexican fighters of all time and Joe Fraser and those types of guys. See how they throw the left hook. And they aren't throwing it like that, okay? If I can, not throwing it like that. Sorry, it's like that, isn't it? Yeah, they sort of hook it in. Thumb up, Shadow Boxer. Thumb up. And even better, my little hint or little tip for the program: before you throw the hook, any hook, take that back a notch. The golden rules: your shoulders are the corridor, straight punches are for the corridor, anything else outside the corridor. So if you throw an uppercut, a hook, a body shot, step out or at least put your head outside the corridor, which is the shoulders, before you throw it. If you try and throw a hook or an uppercut in the corridor, you're in trouble. You're probably going to wear one straight down the middle. So step outside the shoulders of your opponent before you do a hook, an uppercut, or a body shot. Take it from me, especially a left hook, Shadow Boxer. Step outside, put all the weight on that front foot and thumb up. and let her rip. There you go. There's little boxing 101 for tonight. All right. Drew, not trying to be a hater, but the dominance of Usyk has taken the wind out of the heavyweight division. I know I will get hate, but I just can't get excited about Joe Parker or the prospect of him fighting Usyk. I'm with you to some extent there, Drew. I wouldn't say he's been dominant, but he's been winning. So that's all he can do. And the fact that he's beaten the other top three heavyweights in the division, arguably with Joseph Parker, we've got Dubois, Joshua, and Fury. Combined 5 times he's beaten them. He's 5-0. That's probably what's taken the sting out of it, Drew. They haven't all been one-sided, although the Joshua fights, I thought especially the second one was pretty clear-cut. But, yeah, look, and the fact that Usyk's not an overly exciting fighter either. He's just a workman-like fighter who just gets the job done. I suppose hasn't helped either, has it? But I'm with you. I'm not overly excited about Joseph Parker, but I'm certainly not excited about Dubois, Drew. If it come down to both of them, I want him to fight Joseph Parker because Parker deserves a shot. So I don't think either one is more exciting than the other, but we've got a fresh challenge for Usyk with Parker. He deserves his shot, so he should get it, in my opinion. What's that, Glenn? You can throw the hook either way. There's slight pros and cons to both ways. No, Glenn. There's no pros and cons. If you're an amateur and you just want to do a sneaky little scoring punch, that's the only way it works. Okay? Amateurs do it, and I hate it. In the pros, there is no other way than thumb up. And I'll stand by that till the day I die. You do not throw a left hook with the thumb down. That's not a hook. I don't even know what. And what it does, it puts all the power is up here. When you throw with the thumb up, all the power is coming through your whole body, and you can push off your foot, and the whole weight of your body goes through the punch. It's just an arm punch, and it's all the power's going on the upper part of your arm, not through your opponent. So, yeah, it's one thing. Hey, Glenn, I like a lot what you say, and I agree with a lot what you say, but no, there's no two ways to throw it, or no either way. It is thumbs up, and that is it. And you won't convince me otherwise. Now I'm on the soapbox. Pound for pound king, how are you there, mate? What do we got here? The Alpha Wolf. Nice name. Unpopular opinion, but Nick Ball was stopped in a way at 126. What do you all think? Well, the 126 Alpha Wolf, I think he's definitely got a chance, but this is Naoya in a way we're talking about. The way Nick Ball fights, yeah, he's a little sort of wrecking ball, isn't he? Look, not without a chance. Of course he's a champion at 126. I'm still going to back in a way. The only thing that makes me think twice, though, is the strength of Ball, and can, in a way, carry the power another division? That's the big question. So I'm still going to back in a way. Glenn agrees. Not too surprised at the sad death of George Foreman. Most legendary elite fighters don't get past their 60s or 70s due to their career damage. Yeah, it's a good point, Drew. They put themselves through a lot. Now, George didn't sort of cop a lot to the head wide. I mean, he did get stopped by Ali, of course. But I think sometimes it's the abuse they put themselves through in training. They do a lot of rounds. Remember, he fought or trained for a lot of 15-rounders, and most of the damage for a lot of these fighters happens outside. Well, sorry, not outside the ring, but not in fights. It's in the training camps. And that's where Ali himself said he punished himself too much in training camp, and it caught up with him later in life. But you are right. It's a really good comment, because Ali, Fraser, and Foreman, neither one of them, I think, reached 80, did they? So, yeah, it does have some merit to it, and a lot of other fighters as well, for different reasons, have passed away. So, yeah, it does have some merit there, Drew. But, back then, I don't think there was the sports science I have now as well, obviously. So, that was just back then, it was just spar 15 rounds every day, and that'll get us prepared. Do your road work, and obviously you take a lot of punishment and put your body through a lot, if that's the case. Glenn loves the Parker Usyk fight. Yep, so do I. Munster will eat Ball, says Tony Clifton. Drew agrees. I feel like Ball is very one-dimensional. Yes, he is. Well, he's just straight ahead, isn't he? Dennis says, did you see Jai's interview alongside Eddie Hearn? I did, Dennis. Get the feeling Jai's not really impressed with Ed. Wants Zerdo and all the belts, but he's spewing it can't happen sooner. Yeah, well, in that respect, though, Dennis, I would back Eddie Hearn, even though he does sort of play the, well, geez, I'm terrified of Jai, we've got to keep him happy. I think behind closed doors, Eddie would be looking at Jai, or maybe, I'm going to say looking him in the eye, maybe he's doing it from a distance, but saying to Jai, hey, mate, I just can't snap my fingers and make this happen, okay? Zerdo's with another promoter. He's got a mandatory he's chosen to take. What do you want me to do? I just can't wave my magic wand and make it happen, so relax and show me a bit of respect. That's what I'd be saying if I was Eddie Hearn. Don't have a crack at me. I'm your promoter, and you do what you're told. Sometimes that's got to be the case. Jai mightn't like that, and I get his frustration, and I understand he's upset. But in this case, I would hope that he would be, well, not literally, but copying it on the chin with the explanation from Eddie and Mick and everyone saying, hey, Jai, mate, you're just going to have to relax, mate. Take this gimme, and we'll get you the fight later in the year. But at the moment, we've got no choice but to sit and wait for Zerdo, let him have his mandatory, so take this other fight and relax. So I think they would let him get to a point of getting worked up. But I think like any child out there, your son or daughter, at some stage you let him go a certain way and then you've got to put him back in the line. I don't think Eddie would, as much as he acts like he's scared of Jai, would take too much shit from a Jai. Because at the end of the day, Eddie is with Turkey Al Sheikh, and you're going to be dropped just as quickly as you're signed on. So we'll see. But again, I think Eddie and Turkey have both said to Jai, mate, take this fight, and then we'll get you the fight later in the year. I gave him $1. Says that fight was hard to score. I was listening to Showbiz, and he had it 7-3 for Sky. Okay, that's a good channel too, Showbiz. I like his style. He's definitely got some personality, hasn't he? Still with I gave him $1. To me, there was no adjustment from Sky. It looked like step back and counter with the left over and over. Well, that was the disappointing thing, mate, is that she didn't. There was no plan B at all. There was barely a plan A. Plan A for Sky is usually, let's from a distance, let's get the lead hand out, keep our opponent just at arm's distance or a little bit further than arm's distance away. And if they happen to get close, we step off to the right with a little check hook. Or if we happen to move to left, then we're clinching, resetting and starting again and just popping the little lead straight left hands in and score and then be gone. And that's been effective to a certain extent with very inferior opponents. But with someone like Tiara Brown, who did her homework, didn't let Sky get that check hook off and pivot off to the side. She cut her off, and then Sky literally had nothing else to offer. And that's what the disappointing thing for me was. I had no dramas with Sky losing because Tiara Brown's a good fighter, former amateur world champion, and she can fight. But I was really surprised and disappointed that Sky had nothing else once that was taken away from her. So, it wasn't a great night for Sky. Dan P. Do you know when Jai's contract ends with Matchroom? As I'm worried Jai's best years are going to be wasted fighting these nobodies he has been lately. Well, I'm not 100% sure when it ends, Dan. I think, here's me there, he knows. I think his contract with Mick Francis is still, 2 or 3 years, I'm pretty sure. But, who knows what happens there. Again, I'll say, I'm sure Eddie is telling Jai, mate, just be patient and the fights will come. Jai's just as frustrated as the rest of us that he's not fighting the Zerdo Ramirez's of the world. Look, who knows? That maybe David Benavides. Bivol says, I'm not going to fight you. I'm fighting Better Beef in the trilogy. Zerdo's off fighting, who was it, Dorticos. And all of a sudden, Benavides says, well, you know what? I'm going to go up to cruiserweight and fight Jai. You just don't know. So Jai's just got to be patient. He's still a young man, Dan. He's only about 28, isn't he? I think, or might be 29 even. But whatever. For a cruiserweight, he's still quite young. I think once he gets the Zerdo fight out of the way, it'll be a clear way to the heavyweight division. So, and who knows? Maybe if he doesn't get the Zerdo fight, because Zerdo might decide to fight Benavides. Benavides has actually shown interest in that fight with Zerdo. Maybe Jai will say, you know what? I'm sick of waiting. I'm going to knock this guy out, then I'm going up to heavyweight, and then we're going to see a real show. So maybe that's what's happening at the moment. But he does have to be patient. It just doesn't happen for you in this business, and that's why it's called a business. You've got to do everything strategically. Random stuff. I think a lot of people underestimate Fundora. Yeah, maybe I'm one of them, Random. I just don't rate him. But he does happen to get the job done, doesn't he? I mean, even with Tim, I know, with the blood and everything, surprisingly, he boxed okay after the second round. No coincidence that's when the blood started, but he does get the job done, but he doesn't do anything particularly well. He hasn't really got a good jab. He's not a big puncher, not a great boxer, not really good on his feet, a little bit cumbersome, fast of hands, but he still manages to get the win. Of course, he's about 7 foot tall. That helps. But the interesting thing with him as well, though, Random, is that, what is he, 6'6" or 6'7" or whatever, and he's the aggressor. So maybe that works in his favour, that the smaller guys are thinking, geez, I got these big bloody prey mantas coming at me. What do I do? But I think the thing you do, by the way, is you get in close and try and push him back and work on the inside and come over the top. But the only one that's been able to work that out so far is Brian Mendoza, isn't it? So, Paul Hearn told TT to do Tim to do just that. Take your time. Yep, good. Is that Tim Zoo? I'm assuming that is there, Paul. Naz, hoping the Aussie media can give Joey Spencer the respect he deserves for coming out during fight week and not bombarding Tim with Thurman questions the whole time as though Spencer isn't there. Yeah, I was disappointed with all that, Naz. He does deserve respect, Spencer. He's come out 3 weeks before the fight, so good on him. I don't think the George Kambosos crew would have been happy that they did a media day, by the way, the same day they were doing theirs, so that didn't do them any favours either, did it? But I'm with you there, Naz. But you got a lot more faith in the Aussie media than what I do, mate, because I don't think any of them know what the hell they're talking about. So, Knuckles Wall. G'day, Lynden. How did you handle your pre-fight nerves? Well, not that well, Nash or Knuckles. Like a lot of fighters out there, you wouldn't know I was nervous, like a lot of these fighters are. But I pretty much had to be pushed to the ring every time I fought, mate. How did I handle my pre-fight nerves? It was pretty simple, Knuckles. I just had to think about all the hard work I'd put in, the end goal, which is where you're trying to get to, and more importantly, hey, your opponent feels exactly the way that you're feeling. This is what I'd say to young fighters. You might be nervous, you might even be scared, you might be, all sorts of feelings that are running through your body, but just you got to remember your opponent is feeling exactly the same way. So when he's looking across from you at the ring, he's thinking, what's this guy got to offer as you're doing the same for him, and what's he going to do? And that's why a lot of the inexperienced fighters I talk to, I say, look, if anything, you got to go against your own feelings and natural instincts, and you sort of got to go for it, but in a smart way. Don't just go out there and let them go. You got to be hands up, chin down, elbows in, and just be smart, because most novices are very, very tentative and very reactive. So you got to get on them and put them on the back foot. And that's the way I would say to a lot of the inexperienced guys to start a fight. But be smart. I'll say it again. Hands up, chin down, elbows in. I'll say it every single time. And it's whoever probably gets on the front foot more wins. But it's for me, mate, we don't have a choice, do you? You've got to go out there at some stage. I know for a fact I was never scared, but as far as nerves goes, I was a wreck every time I'd get in there. And I'm an overthinker too, Knuckles. I would fight the fight 100 times over in my head before I got in there, and that's the other thing you got to try not to do. And I was guilty of it, and you just got to try and just try and get through it. It's not easy to do because everyone reacts in different ways. But I was very lucky, though, Knuckles, that as soon as I made my walk to the ring, in the rooms I was a bit of a wreck. I wouldn't show it, but inside I was a mess. Put on the tough exterior and the mean look, all the rest of it, but inside I was like this, shaking. But as soon as the guy or the attendant, whatever, would come in and say, right, let's go, I got that initial jolt of adrenaline, but as soon as I walked through the doors and made my way to the ring, there was no nerves anymore. They were gone. And when I got into the ring, they were completely gone. It's sort of, if anything, that's when I started to really get it buzzed and ready to go. So I was the opposite to some other fighters who get in there and like a deer in the headlights. That's when I actually felt great. But in the change rooms, I was a mess. So I suppose that's the best advice I can give you, Knuckles. Anyone watching, that if you are going in there, is that no matter how you feel in the ring, just get through it, just get to the ring, and then all will be fine. And then, again, your opponent feels the same way as you, so just get on with it. All right, here we go. Jack Pierce again, back to Terramona. I've never seen someone fight well after doing that dancing shit on the way to the ring, like when Sabrina Matias did that rapping shit before he fought Para. Yeah, well, it didn't end well for him either, did it? He was very disappointed. The best one you've ever seen, though, Jack, anyone watching out there, is Anthony Hembrick. Watch him. He, so I think it came up on social media the other day, but it's Anthony Hembrick. And he got in the ring. He would do the dance. He'd do all the routine with the corner. They had this thing worked out with all the high fives and, little pirouettes and all this sort of stuff. The whole team was in on the dance, and he went out there and got knocked out in the first round. So that's another thing I would say to young fighters out there. Don't watch all these elite fighters with all their showboating. Just don't fall for it. All the flash pad routines as well, and all the razzmatazz. Just worry about keeping those hands up and your chin down, and you'll be fine. That's what you should be concentrating on, not all the flashy stuff. What have we got? OG lights out. What age do kids start to fight amateur fights? Well, I had my first fight I think I just turned 11, OG, but that was 40 years ago. So I think these days it might be 14 in Victoria, and I think it might be 12, maybe New South Wales and Queensland, I think. So, but yeah, I'm all for getting kids involved super early. As long as the emphasis is just on getting in there and learning and just getting fights under your belt. And don't worry about your records. And I said that last week or the week before. Do not worry about records. Just get in there and just get the fights under their belt. Jackson Murray versus Terramona. Daniel, mate, Terramona murders Jackson Murray. Just my opinion. Probably a harsh word, but Terramona knocks Jackson Murray out. Virgil Ortiz will knock Tim Tszyu out. Yeah, well, it's up to Tim to prove otherwise, isn't it? But based on the Murder-Zalio fight, yeah, I'm with you there. 10 times profits. I think it's going to be a tough one for Tim. And it's interesting, they were going to fight last year, weren't they? It's probably a good thing that fight didn't happen in hindsight. Jack Pearce, whoever's making the pro debut against Louis Masters, is a brave man. He's a dangerous puncher, especially early. Well, that's what we spoke about earlier, Jack. That is Adrian Paoletti, who was a very, very good amateur. And he's probably going to have about a foot on Louis Masters, but he's going to be dangerous early. Adrian, what did I call him? Adrian Portatelli, how I pronounced it before. He's a very good boxer, Jack. So I think he'll outbox Louis Masters. I don't think Louis Masters will be able to get close enough to him. Paoletti is his name, of course. Adrian Paoletti. I don't think Louis Masters will be able to get close enough because Paoletti is a very, very good boxer, Jack. And as I said, we'll have about a foot on height on him, as well as great boxing skills. Very well taught. All right. Eddie Hearn won't be getting any coochie from Scott Nicholson. No. Surprised they haven't dragged out Big Daddy for Terramona. Yeah, well, who knows? It might be coming. If they pay him enough, maybe he will. Dennis, say what you will about George, but he's on a par with Thurman as undisputed champs at third person self-referencing. Yeah, he is. Michael Zarafi got a throw in there too, Dennis. He's the king of the third person references as well. Andy says crowd was poor because poor promotion, but also it's footy season. Yeah, I'm not going to buy into that too either, Andy. I think there was only one game in Sydney that night, wasn't there, in the NRL? No, I just think the real fight fans will go no matter what. They put George on against Devon Haney during footy season in Melbourne. Was that the first one? Was it? When was that? Yeah, it was. It was in footy season. Yep, I think both fights were actually. No, the second one was after footy season, but the first one was definitely in season, and they got 43,000 there. I know Sydney's probably different to Melbourne, but if it's a good event, people will go. Pound for pound says Cambosa should do the TR rematch. Well, that's the end game, I think. Think Haney gets beat next fight. Go the Swans, says Carl. Yeah, what's that against Ramirez? Isn't it? Yeah, a tough one for Haney. And the Swans, yeah, they had a good win too, didn't they? I don't follow footy, Cal. I used to follow Carlton. How they going this year? I'm not sure. But anyway. Thanks, Roscoe. Nice to see you on the weekend, mate. Andy, should if opportunity arises, best case scenario is if Cambo beats Hitchens next and Teo was unification, God willing. Well, if Cambosis beats Hitchens and Teo beats, who's he fighting? Barboza. Makes sense they fight next, doesn't it? Jules, if Tim loses to Joey, he will get fired. Is that fried? Okay, but I appreciate Tim taking a risk over a Thai or Fijian. Billy Dibb lost to Farmer. Next fight was round 1 KO of a serial Thai journeyman. Not at this level. I'm with you, mate. I look full respect to Tim Tszyu for taking a fight as tough as Joey Spencer. But again, a very calculated move by his team, and I think it's the right one. OG Lights out, sorry. $2.99 in the super chat. Thanks very much, mate. Appreciated you coming. Thanks, mate. Appreciated you coming to Cairns. I will be going to Cairns. When is it? When is that? June 11th, isn't it? Now I've got to find my way again. All right. Pound for pound. Cambosis keeps telling Tio it has to happen in Australia, but Tio doesn't want to come here. There's no way he's coming to Australia, pound for pound. He ain't coming here, especially if he's got one of the belts. It'll be in America. All right, Jules, on that, I felt the Toromona matchup on Saturday was embarrassing. Good stoppage because Singh could have got badly hurt. He could have. But as I said, Jules, he didn't have to be that way. Could have stopped him at some stage. He's still going to get knocked out on his record. But why not use the opportunity to at least get 1 or 2 rounds under your belt? It just doesn't make sense to me. And I'm hoping that Gareth was pissed afterwards and got stuck into him. Paul, love the explanation of the hooks outside the corridor. Great teacher. Thanks, Paul. I like actually teaching. I'm not really stressed about being a boxing coach as such. I did try that about 10 years ago. It's not really my thing. But I love being a bit of a mentor and someone that works with fighters and works on different things. I like doing that, but not necessarily being an actual boxing trainer. But that's my advice there, Paul. Yep. Straight punches down the corridor. Anything else outside the corridor. Very, very basic stuff, but I'm telling you, it works. Naz, who have you got in the Farmer versus Zapeta rematch this weekend? It's a must-win for Zapeta if you still want Shakur, Tank, etc. Yeah, I forgot that fight was actually on, Naz. I was reading through this morning and thought, oh, shit, that's this weekend. I think Zapeta wins that fight, Naz. But I'll tell you what, if he struggles again against Farmer, you got to have doubts, don't you? I've got a feeling he was caught a little bit unawares in the first fight and expected it just to happen. Farmer's a pretty cagey guy. But I would think if Zapeta wants to be at that top level and fight those guys, Shakur, Tank, and everyone else, he needs to have a convincing win over Farmer, I would think. And I think he gets it this weekend. Look out. We've got another one from OG, $2.99. I'll look out for you. Yep. Sounds good, OG. Look forward to hopefully seeing you there, mate. All right. There's Bacon and Eggs. One of the best names on the net, Bacon and Eggs, with a koala, what is it, avatar? Love it. Drew Keeley, I really wish the Aussie media could get behind Opatai like they do Tim Tszyu. I know Opatai doesn't have the name or charisma, but he's an elite talent that deserves top coverage. He does, Drew. I'm with you, mate, but the Australian boxing media, well, I've got a little bit of a love-hate relationship with them. Look, it's not Tim's fault, by the way, and don't forget that No Limit have got an arrangement, you can tell, with News Corp. They're all over the newspapers, and whenever they put an event on, they get heaps of coverage. So it must be all work. Although News Corp have sold their share in Foxtel, so maybe that will all change. But you can tell they've got a share in it, and they covered not just Tim, but all the No Limit shows extensively. And then you get Jai Patai, who might be lucky to get one story. George Kambosos didn't have one story in the Herald Sun I'm talking about here in Melbourne. I'm not quite sure. I'm assuming in Sydney there was a fair bit of coverage. Not so much probably in Queensland, or maybe with Jake Wiley there was, but there was nothing in Victoria. You know what got the biggest response from the media down here was the comments from Jim Kambosos towards Michael Katsidis. That was big news. I'm not sure where it was on I don't actually buy the paper. I just read it online, but it was big news. Like, boom, here it is. Update. Jim Kambosos threatens to clip Michael Katsidis. So that got more attention than the fight itself, and that shows you where boxing is in this country, unfortunately, with the media, Drew. But you're 100% right. And even George last week, former undisputed champion, should have got a heap more coverage. Liam Paro got nothing either. The Maloney's got nothing. It's just ridiculous in this country. They just piss me off, all those fanboy journalists here. And I'm sure they were all at the press conference with Tim, with drool coming out of their mouth whenever he spoke. And that's not Tim's fault, by the way. Tim's Tim. But if you are out there, the Peter Bedell's and Brendan Bradford's out there, geez, come on, guys. I know you're on the payroll of News Corp, but come on. We've got so much talent here, so much going on, and the best you can do is, apart from Tim, is to report about the Jim Kambosos' remarks at Katsidis. Just bullshit. All right, Carlo Capetta. Didn't think much of GK's performance. That's George's. Couldn't dent Wiley and certainly lacked variation to solve the puzzle. Not much joy at 140 world level for George. Cheers for the effort, mate. Thanks very much, Carlo. I appreciate it, mate. Yeah, look, again, I'll just say it wasn't the most impressive performance from George, but he looked great early. And again, I just think he went into caution mode once the cut happened and just wanted to get through and hopefully didn't blow the Hitchens fight. That's all. He barely lost a round. That's all he can do. I thought he actually looked the best I've seen him since the TO fight. The Loma and the Haney fights, it was really hard for him to look good in those fights. And even with Maxie Hughes, I know he should have probably beaten Hughes convincingly, but Hughes, again, just ran from George. And George just struggles with those type of fighters. Maxie Hughes was just jab and run and jab and run and jab and hold and everything else. It made life really hard for George. So Wiley was custom made, but he's a big, strong, tough kid. And again, I just think George wanted to get through unscathed or as less unscathed as he could. And he managed to do that, and he saved the fight with Hitchens. All right, Andy. Eddie's doing his best for Jai, but yes, Mandos need honouring. So Zerdo, Badu are both just not available at the moment. Do certainly hope Jai can achieve undisputed at cruiserweight. Yeah, well, I think if he gets the opportunity, Andy, he'll do it. But he just needs to be told to be patient. Okay, I know it must be killing him at the moment, but just be patient. It's okay. Keep busy. You'll get your opportunity. And as I said earlier, I've got no doubt if it wasn't Eddie, it'd be Turkey El Sheikh saying to Jai, hey, just relax. You'll get your fight. Just go with the flow. Toby Bartlett, salute. Deep Dive just found the channel and clicked on. No worries, Toby. Thanks for joining in, mate. Great to have you on board. Got a comment or question in there? Put it in the chat. We're here every Monday for 2 hours, so don't be shy. Jules, don't mind Jai's recent comments. A humble and nice approach hasn't worked 2 years and hasn't even looked like getting unification bout. Time for a different approach, in my opinion. Yeah, you just got to be careful you don't cross the line, though, Jules. You know, Eddie's a powerful man and he'll put up with so much. Yeah, I do agree that maybe he's got to take a different approach, but I got no doubt that if it's not Eddie or Turkey, it's Mick Francis saying, Jai, mate, it's okay. All right, you'll get your chance, and he will. And if it's not against Zerdo, then he'll go up and he'll fight those killers at heavyweight, and you'll get everything he wants. Naz, Jai versus Zerdo would be great on the Canelo Crawford undercard. Lots of eyes on Jai. Yeah, that would be a great time to have the fight. Naz, that's a great tip. I did see that Terence Crawford wants Shakur and Tank on that card. I did agree with his comments, though, or someone commented that there's no way Tank will be on an undercard. He thinks he's the number one fighter in the sport. But, geez, that'd be great. But, geez, Jai and Zerdo, what perfect fight to have on the undercard. Perfect. Nectar of the Gods. Got some great names tonight. Got questions about Fundora. How does he stay at 154 being that tall? How the hell does he throw 70-odd punches in the first 2 rounds and steps up to 100+ for rounds 3 and 4? PBC don't do drug testing. He's just, you look at him, though, Nectar, and there's just nothing below the waist. His skinny little legs and those arms. I don't know how he does it either, but what's 154? 70 kilos. So I'm with you, mate. I don't know. Look, he probably hydrates back up to probably, I'm probably thinking about 170. I'm probably thinking he probably hydrates back up to. I'm not sure it's PBC. PBC wouldn't have a choice for the drug testing. That's on the commission to do all that, and I'm sure they all do it. But I'm with you, mate. He's definitely a freak, isn't he? Drew says, I have major concerns about the Turkey, Dana White and TKO plans for boxing. Too many visions, obstacles and moving parts without definitive parameters. Well, all we've got so far, Drew, is Dana White saying, I'm going to start from the ground up and strip it all down and start afresh. Well, that's great in theory, but how the hell do you do that when you've got all the other promoters out there and fighters and this big, massive machine that is boxing just going along at 100 miles an hour? How do you just stop it and strip it down and start from the chassis upwards? I just don't understand it. Now, it would be easy if the WBA, WBC, WBO and IBF said, the TKO coming in, I suppose that's it for us. Just make sure you turn the lights off on the way out to the last staff member. And Eddie Hearn and Oscar De La Hoya and Frank Warren and Bob Arum all say, Dana White's coming in. We better shut shop and again turn the lights out on the way out. That's the only way it works properly, is what I'm saying. In my opinion, all this is going to do is create even more confusion. We're going to have a fifth. Well, if you count the ring as a belt, we're going to have 6 belts 4 or 5 official ones. Well, how does TKO actually become any different to an IBO or a WBF or a WBU? Do they just anoint themselves as a player? You got to serve your time. WBC and WBA have been around since the 50s or 60s, whatever it's been. Early 60s, I think it was. IBF in the mid-80s, WBO in the late 80s. And they all had to earn their way. Well, not so much WBA and WBC because they were sort of the first world bodies. But the IBF and WBO had to earn their stripes. The IBO and the WBF and the WBU and all these other alphabet titles have all just gone by the wayside and aren't even considered because they just haven't been able to get traction as far as fights and champions and that goes, but the others have had to do it. TKO, when you think about it, has to do the same thing, or does TKO become another IBO? So they've got to prove themselves. Just the fact that Turkey and Dana White have created this organisation doesn't mean it's just going to march in and be a player straight away. What happens if all the fighters stay loyal to Eddie and Oscar and Bob and say to Dana White and TKO, stick it up your ass, I'm not going to do that. I'm happy with where I am. Then what? They get a bunch of young kids coming up. They're probably going to have a 10% strike rate with their prospects. So I think it's a long haul. I really do. And I've had people come back, oh, but Turkey Al-Sheikh's and he's got the money and Dana White's got the experience. Yeah, I don't even think all the money that Turkey's got is going to help. But having Dana White there certainly is not going to be just, well, that's it. It's just going to work. Dana White, I don't think, understands boxing. And I'm a massive fan of Dana White. I really am. And he's done a magnificent job with the UFC. But this is an established sport, established business. This is not something you're just going to take and evolve. This is a big monster of a business that's in full speed ahead mode. And some pretty aggressive promoters in Eddie, Bob, and Oscar, and even Frank, who aren't going to let Dana White come and push them around, I can tell you. And the fact that they're not overly stressed about it says to me that they know something we don't, and they've got some plans. Whether Turkey's offered them some side deals to keep them happy, I don't know. Or they're just confident that it's not going to work. I'm still to be convinced, Drew, and I don't think it works. I think it'll work to some extent. The system and structure will work, but all the best fighters, I'll have a few here, but Eddie will have some, and Oscar will have some, and Frank and Bob will have some, and it's not going to be any different. I just don't see how it works unless everyone else is shut shop. I really don't. Oscar Everingham, love your work, brother. Thank you very much. Oscar, very, very much appreciated, mate. We've got another super chat. OG, it's all right, mate. I'll answer your question without donating. I appreciate it. You don't have to give me money every time you comment, mate. I will get to you. Who would you like to see Nikita fight next? Very good question, mate. I would maybe say that's a really good question because I don't know. I think maybe Benjamin Hussein, but he hasn't been overly active either, has he? Ben Mahoney would be good, but I just don't think they'll want someone like Ben Mahoney in with Nikita yet. I think he might be a bit cagey for Nikita. Let's just have a quick look at the rankings. But Benjamin Hussein sort of is the one that rolls off the tongue there, mate. But hang on, I'll have a quick look. Where are we? I'll get it over here so I can see. Boxing scene. I'll go to the ranking. No, sorry, not the boxing scene. We want ANBF, don't we? ANBF ratings. All right, let's have a quick look and see if we can find Nikita an opponent. All right. Ratings, there we go. National. Yep, anytime now, computer. All right, so where are we? What is he? Super welterweight. Well, actually, I reckon if Dan Hill gets past Kyle Mazzutia, OG, that would be a good fight. Let's see. So we've got Ben Mahoney. Yeah, too dangerous this early. Benjamin Hussein makes sense, as I said. You got Kyle Mazzutia's already been there. Wade Ryan, I would stay right away from Wade Ryan. Because he's just all wrong for Nikita. He's a spoiler. Dylan Biggs has already been there. Mason Smith been there. Lewis Chadwick, not ready. Jorge Capine, no. Creati's been there. Not much there, OG. I'm going to say Benjamin Hussein or Dan Hill if he beats Mazzutia. Where are we? I'll get through. Thanks, Rob. Always appreciate the show. No, very much appreciate it, mate. I'm glad you're tuning in. All right. Frankie D, how are you, Frankie? 100%. I think George looked the best he has since he beat Teo. Looked sharp early and light on his feet. Yep, thanks, Frank. I agree with that. Julian says Jai doesn't care about the media. Jai despises them anyway. Yeah, he does. He does. You should have seen him up in Queensland, Julian. He was it was lined up. Now, as everyone knows, I'm not a reporter. I don't go there to interview fighters and everyone. I've got no interest in it. I just go there to report my journey, my trip, and put the daily vlogs up, and I enjoy that. But I was sort of standing where Jai was. He was behind sort of a barrier, and there was a line. And I'm just sort of getting some vision for my videos and up close. And there's probably about 6 or 7 people lined up. And I looked at the last guy in the line and thinking, geez, mate, I really feel for you, because each guy that stepped up, they get 2 or 3 questions each. And you could see Jai just getting more and more pissed as each one went. So the last guy at the end of the line, I really felt for him, because he would have got maybe a 2-word answer from Jai at the end of it. But that's just Jai, and that's cool. That's all good. He does despise. I don't think he despises the media as such. He just despises the whole situation. He just likes to train and fight, go home, spend time with the family, and then repeat it in a couple of months' time. That's just Jai. I've got to say, though, Julian, some of the media, us and influencers or whatever they are, whoever, whether it be a content creator or a real sort of journalist, geez, they ask some shit questions. And the problem is they all ask the same thing. And this is why Jai and other fighters or any other athlete get pissed off, because how many times can Jai get interviewed and ask this or answer the same question? So I went in the press conference, I must admit, I had a couple of questions I was going to ask, and that were a little bit left to centre, because everyone's like, okay, how did you feel? Yeah, I felt good. You know, how'd you feel with the late replacement? Yeah, didn't matter. I just got on with it. What's next? No, I suppose Zerto, Ramirez, you know. Same old, same old, same old. So I would like to see someone say something really left to centre. All right, Jules. Then we might get a reaction from Jai, by the way. Something a little bit different. Where you can actually go, you know what? I'd like Jai or someone to say, you know what? That's actually a pretty good question. And here's my answer. Not, yeah, no, feeling good. Yeah, no, good on him. Yeah, whatever. You know. So, all right, who we got? Jules. Shout out to Jake Wiley. Was clearly disappointed when the Villanueva fight was stopped early. Oh, sorry, yeah. Was stopped. That's his last opponent, of course. Yeah, sorry. Was stopped early and ruled a no contest, but thought he handled himself with class. Turned out to be a blessing. It certainly did, Jules, because he was fresh, 100%. Yeah, it was a shame in that fight, but that was only a couple of months ago, I think, too, wasn't it? All right, Sam the Man Fish. Hope Wiley doesn't get pushed up out of his depth after his good performance against George. Boxing IQ not ready yet. Still goes straight back. No angles. Doesn't set traps. Good foundations though. Yeah, well, that's the only other thing I'm in agreement with you with there, Sam, is that I hope they don't, now he's going to be signed with Matchroom, they don't throw him in with someone that's really world class and someone that's, you know, a bit of a killer at the weight and a young up and comer who's going to really try and take Jake out, not try and box him for 12 rounds. I hope they don't sort of expect too much from him. It'd be nice if Eddie got behind him and just tried to build him. It's nice of him again to sign him, but I've just got a feeling I go, oh, this guy might be good as a bit of cannon fodder on our shows against some other prospects. So, but having said that, Steve Dalla and Luke Meldon won't let that happen. They won't let him put him with someone they're not comfortable with him being in with, unless the money is excellent. That's the way those guys roll. So I think he's in good hands that way, Sam. Do you think Dana Coolwell got a chance in his next fight, says Rob? Now, who was that against again, Rob? He's fighting soon, isn't he? It's against, is it another undefeated prospect, isn't it? Let me have a quick look. Dana Coolwell. Got to give him credit, though, Dana. He's like, oh, well, screw this Australian stuff. I'm going overseas. I'm going to give it a crack. I like it. Love the attitude. And he's not getting knocked around, so why not? No, his next fight's not on BoxRec at the moment there, Rob, but I did see something on social media last week or something, so let me know who it is, mate. All right, Andy, the 4 existing major belts are not going to suddenly disappear with the entry of the TKO. Boxing existed and succeeded before TKO or Turkey. All can exist together, but TKO entry now ruining Undisputed. Yeah, that's right. And look, the confusing thing too, Andy, is that Turkey Al Sheikh has said they'll still work in with the sanctioning bodies, which doesn't make sense at all when They've openly said they want one belt. So how does that work? Unless it's unification, maybe they just want to clean up all those unified belts. But history shows that you can't tie up all the belts. At some stage, you're going to get stripped of at least one. That's just the way it is. Even Terence Crawford and Canelo Alvarez have been stripped. Alexander Usyk have all been stripped of belts when they've been undisputed for no fault of their own, except they didn't want to fight some guy no one had ever heard of. Actually, Usyk got stripped for not wanting to fight Dubois. But yeah, so I don't know how that works. And the promoters, he said they want to work in with other promoters. Well, Dana White's openly said, we don't want to work with other promoters. We want to be the promoter. And we're going to put those guys out of business. So I don't know how it's going to work, Andy. I just think it's a dog's breakfast, especially when you've got Turkey saying one thing and Dana White saying another thing. And then you've got Oscar and Eddie, who have worked in so closely with Turkey Al Sheikh. But they're also cool with what's going on. I don't know. The whole thing just doesn't make sense. Thanks, OG. Really appreciate it, mate. It all helps. Andy, congratulations, Jake Wiley. Hope you got that Eddie Hearn phone call today. I'm sure he would have, Andy. I can guarantee you that Steve Della would have been on the phone to Eddie this morning. Probably would have had breakfast with him the morning after and said, now, Eddie, here's a contract here, mate. Let's make sure we get that signature before you go back to England. Steve is a very, very good operator, so I'm sure he's in good hands there, mate. What have we got there, Kelsey? I think I've actually catched up here, which I didn't think I'd do after 20 minutes with Will. Jai is Jai and needs to fight. Yeah, he does, Cal. And look, he'll get his opportunity. I think he's just one of those guys that he just gets a bit uneasy and restless outside the ring. He's got to be in there. He's got to be training. He's got to be doing something, or else he just doesn't know what to do with himself. Too much time. Too much money on his hands, although I don't think he drinks or he wouldn't smoke, of course, but I don't think he's a drinker or gambler or anything like that. So he probably hasn't really got much else to do, which is why he just wants to fight. This is a guy, I think, right from day dot. I remember someone in the know about it was before the Olympics in 2012 saying to me, you've got to watch this young kid, Jai Patai. He's a gun. And that was, 13 years ago. And I remember thinking, okay, I'll keep a lookout for him. And I just remember meeting Jai and just talking to him saying he just loves to punch on with people. And I think in this instance here, that's what they want. They've just got to keep him active, 3 to 4 fights a year, and he'll be happy. But I understand his frustration. All right, Jules agrees with Andy, but at the same time, TKO will only ruin Undisputed if the fans allow it. IBO doesn't ruin it, just a matter of perception. Depending how it goes, maybe it replaces Undisputed. Yeah, maybe. Maybe what happens, Jules, is that the TKO belt is awarded to the Undisputed champion. And I've said on here a couple of times, wouldn't it be great if the sanctioning bodies all got together and had a belt that represented all 4 belts, and that is the Undisputed that is given to the Undisputed champion. Now, there's only ever going to be 1, 2, maybe 3 at any one time. But if you unify all 4 belts, you get the Undisputed belt. Again, that might be a bit of WBA, WBC, WBO, and IBF all sort of mixed in with different things on the belt that represents all the belts. And then if you are Undisputed, all the sanctioning bodies then all get together and work out a whole, like there's maybe a different protocol that all 4 sanctioning bodies sit down and work out that they all abide by, that gives the ability for a champion to remain remain undisputed, to give them and not lose belts just because they simply can't fight 4 mandatories in 1 year. So I think that in a perfect world, that's what would happen, and maybe it could be the TKO belt when they talk about working in with those sanctioning bodies. That's the only thing I can think of, where maybe that is the case. If they get 4 belts, the TKO belt goes to the winner automatically, and then they have their own champs. I don't know, but look, I'm just throwing things out there at the moment. But even if it wasn't for TKO, I would still stand by that they need, or a great idea would be to have a 5th belt, but it's just an undisputed belt. It's not another sanctioning body or whatever. It's just the world champion. So I'm not the WBA champion. I'm not the WBC champion or IBF or WBO. I am the world champion. And at the moment, what would be Naoya Inoue, Alexander Usyk, should be, and Canelo. At the moment, it should be Usyk, Canelo, and Inoue as the world champion. Everyone else are just belt holders, I think. So anyway, we'll see what happens. Just spitballing at the moment. What's that, Andy? I'm expecting TKO uses Canelo skull and light heavyweight undisputed for launch -4 existing belts. Yeah, that's another thing that could happen, Andy. And what better way to launch it than maybe not Canelo and skull? I reckon it could be Canelo and Crawford that they say, right, because once he gets the IBF belt from skull and fights Crawford, maybe that will be that would be the best opportunity and the most attention, and I suppose the thing that's going to rattle the most cages to say, all right, we're making the announcement here. We are vacating all 4 belts, and this is the new belt, and this is the belt we're going to fight for going forward, and really launch it with a massive bang. And you're right, same thing with the undisputed. Sorry, I forgot Bivol, by the way, as far as the world champion goes. So maybe that's what could happen. They could use those 2 fights to launch the TKO thing. It still won't work though, Andy. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether they've got Bivol or Better Be, Van Canelo, and even in a way, it's still not going to work. They could have the biggest names in the sport, those 3 or 4 fights, Usyk as well as the TKO champions. It's still not going to change the fact that they've all these other divisions, have still got all these champions. So I don't know how it works. Who wins? Ben Eubank says Dennis. Ben wins for me, Dennis. I think he stops Eubank. Nectar of the Gods. Why doesn't Jai drop the IBF, get ranked in the organisation that Zerdo is champ for? Then he could be his mandatory. It will, but the only problem is though, Zerdo, Nectar, if Zerdo doesn't want to fight Jai for any reason, well, he could probably just drop that one of those belts and fight for Jai's IBF belt. I mean, there's so many ways around it. And with Benavidez, if he came up to fight Zerdo, they'll find some way to get some sort of belt. And if it's WBC, they love both of those guys. They love Benavidez especially. They'll find a way to tiptoe around it, mate. But it's good theory anyway. All right, a couple more questions and we'll call it a night. Boxing or politics? Mike Tyson was the youngest heavyweight champion of all time. These days it takes 10 years to get a shot. Dana will sort that shit out. That's why boxing has suffered. Sad. Dana will probably sort out in his own organisation his shit, and he will make fighters earn shots in his organisation. The problem is, though, Ryan, there's 4 other organisations out there at least that the same thing that's happening now will continue to happen. So you're right, yeah, Dana will sort the shit out for the TKO, but how's he going to sort out the WBA, WBC, and the other 2? Yeah. And Mike Tyson, even though he's the youngest heavyweight champion of all time, he earned his shot. He was an absolute bulldozer. He was fighting 10 times a year. He earned his shot. So, and the reason it's not going to, or it takes 10 years now, is because they fight once or twice a year. Very hard to be mandatory and get a bit of momentum when you fight once or twice a year. What's that, Nectar? If you got all 4 belts, you got the ring belt too. Yes, yeah, no, I forgot about the ring, but still only a magazine belt though, Nectar. I've had back and forth with viewers since we started the channel. And yes, I agree, the ring is the true indication of the champion. I 100% agree, but still, it doesn't change the fact that it is a magazine's belt. And it has really no real relevance in the scheme of things. It does to us fans. It's that sort of indicative type of belt, I suppose, that is the champion. But the facts of the matter are, it's not a recognised belt. So isn't that just ironic, or just typical of boxing, though, that the belt that we all consider to be the belt isn't officially recognised as a belt? It's just shows where boxing is, doesn't it? All right, a couple more there. OG, have you been to Cairns before? If not, catch a boat to Green Island, and do you like seafood? If so, my shout to Prawn Star in Cairns City. OG, I've been to Cairns once when I was a little tacker. Can't really remember it much. Haven't been to Green Island. I don't like seafood, but happy to have anything else shouted. If that was the case, mate. All right, Shadow Boxer. That's lineal, not undisputed. Need to get the rest for undisputed. Talking to Nectar. That is about the ring belt. Yep. Andy, TKO will enter Turkey-owned Ring Magazine rankings now. TKO will enter Turkey-owned Ring Magazine rankings now. If Turkey disregards other belts in that magazine, expect an uproar in the boxing community, understandably. Well, that'll be the next thing, Andy. Be like BoxRec. There won't be champions listed. It'll just have the TKO champion. Won't that cause some shit? All right, last 2 questions and we'll call it a night. UFC very flat at the moment. No wonder Dana's getting into boxing, in my opinion. It is a bit flat, Toby. I don't follow UFC, but I must admit, you sort of know when they put these pay-per-view events on, the big ones. I normally do recognise at least one of the fighters. I know about one of the fighters, but I must admit some of the ones, it's like, I've got no idea who that guy is. So, and that's what they've got to get over. They've got to get the casual fans like me involved. I'm not even casual. I'm just from a distance. But as I said, I sort of at least know one of the fighters. It's the main event, and I don't know who that is at the moment. So, but maybe Dana just needs another challenge. I don't know, but who knows? We'll see soon, mate, when he gets into it. Jay Brown, if Eddie in Turkey can't get Jai the Zerto fight, then it's not possible. I do think we will see the September, October. Yeah, I agree, mate. And last question from AA. Who do you reckon Justice when he fights next and when? I can probably guarantee AA that he will fight on the Jai Pattaya card. You would think that, like the last show, he'll be on that card. I don't know who it'll be, but it'll probably be similar to the last guy I fought. It'll be someone sort of ranked between, 15 and 20, and he'll keep busy. He's number one with the WBO, don't forget, so it's not going to be someone too risky, I can assure you. So, yeah, I think it'll be someone capable, but not too capable. All right, guys, that's going to do it. It is right on 9 o'clock. So, as always, we'll call the night. Make sure you tune in every day for the walking boxing. Again, apologies for yesterday. I don't know, something happened with my microphone again. But I did sort of redo it today, so check it out if yesterday's was a no-go for you. And 7 days a week we do that. It's about a 20-minute video every single day to talk about what's happening in the last 24 hours, so check it out. Now, this Wednesday, I'm planning to maybe do another live with an in-focus of a fighter where we have a quick look at their career and then match them up against 10 other great fighters, or, very, very good fighters of that era. Looks like it's going to be Usyk first, starting with the heavyweights, and we'll match him up against some of the best heavyweights of all time. Although if I get time, I wouldn't mind even doing a George Foreman special and maybe matching him up against some of the other best heavyweights of all time as a bit of a tribute to Big George. And we will have the fight week coming up again soon too. So starting just to get the wheels turning on some more content. It's been a busy time for the last few months, so we'll start to get back on track. So that's it, guys. Have a great week, and we'll catch you next Monday night.